Let's go ahead and get started. I should just say reconvene. Okay, let's reconvene from closed session. I'm sorry, reconvene from closed session. Okay, there was no action taken in our closed session prior to this time. With that being said, moving on to, for all those interested, would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, at this time, we have public comment. Anyone wanting to speak on anything that is not on the agenda tonight is so welcome. And as a courtesy to all, try to please keep your comments to a maximum of 3 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, just say once again, as I say whenever I get a few spare moments, Emery Unified School District should stop administering the loyalty oath to Donald Trump and to the government of the United States. It's also called the Pledge of Allegiance. You should stop doing it because it's not legally required.
Please stay on topic. Agenda item. That was an agenda item, please.
It's supposed to be a non-agenda item.
The Pledge of Allegiance is on the agenda.
Discuss it among yourselves, and I'll stop the clock, please.
I'm sorry, what's,
Can I continue?
I believe you. How did we even talk about the
This is public comment. I'm allowed to speak about anything. Please don't interrupt members of the public when they're speaking and when they have the floor. The state mandates that I have the floor right now, so please don't interrupt me or anybody else for that matter, please. The district should not be dispensing the loyalty oath to the public because it's unseemly and it's not legally required. It teaches people to not be critical thinkers, which is runs counter to the official Emery Unified School District policy that we're supposed to be teaching students to think critically. So in effect, what you're doing is you're telling students to think critically and acquire critical thinking skills, but then essentially what you're saying was, well, you know, we don't really mean that. Instead, what you should do is you should swear your loyalty to the government of the United States. And is my government right or wrong? And your loyalty should be with the government. And it's unseemly, and it's not necessary. It does harm, so you should stop doing it. This is the Emeryville City Council has stopped, and you should also stop. Even more so, because it's a school district and you're teaching children bad example about how not to be a good citizen. Again, the loyalty oath, also known as the Pledge of Allegiance, is un-American at its core. I want to talk about, I guess it's something that's on the agenda, but I'm afraid I'm not going to have enough time. The 3 minutes won't afford me enough time. And I just got the red line copy just moments ago, so of the agenda item. So I'm going to start reading it, and I hope I have enough time to read the red line copy until this agenda comes up. But you know, it'd be nice if we could get, the public could get these documents earlier than just a few moments before the meeting. Thank you.
Any more comments? With that being said, we'll move on to the next item. It's reports. ETA.
Good evening. I'm Mark Davis, President, Emery Teachers Association. Not a lot to report, but I did want to say we're entering, hopefully, what is our final day of negotiations tomorrow. And we are all looking forward to getting things signed, sealed, and delivered so that we can probably talk to you more next month. I did want to take a moment and thank Member Vargas. He got good reviews for attending a staff meeting. And I heard comments from a lot of teachers that they were good to see the face there. Also, I want to thank Member Collins for showing up today and wishing us well, the teachers, on Teacher Appreciation. Again, it's good to see your face. You have to pardon, these are prescriptions, so I'm not trying to be cool. You know, I failed at it in high school, so. There are a couple concerns campus-wide as far as teachers are starting to express concern about security, mainly where the doors to the gym/pool area are open and that the public can just kind of walk in, and there doesn't appear to be anybody monitoring who comes in and where they go. So it's just something that we hope you take a look at, because the liability should a kid be in the gym or whatever, you know, could be serious. And hopefully we'll have more to tell you in the coming days. I see Ms. Scruggs in the audience. I want to, on behalf of ETA, welcome to the district. I know many teachers are anxious to talk with you. Okay, thank you. Good night.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Next comes SCEA report. Since, all right.
Good afternoon again. It's been a while since you've seen me. I am Gracie Smith. I am the shop steward for the CSEA. We didn't have no negotiation this year. I hope we'll be able to start our negotiation in August or September when we get back in the school year. But I have a few things that I want to discuss to the board that is concerning the food service department and what is really going on with us. And things that we feel that we are not getting treated fairly. There's some days we got hot water, some days we don't have hot water. And it's not fair for my staff to boil water to wash dishes. And so I told them that we're not going to do that anymore because somebody can get burned by doing that. Next, the light in the hood, things that need to be fixed, you know, and when the health department come in and check us, they do not come to the district or come to the board. They come to the kitchen, and we are getting written up for certain things that are not being fixed. I have been turning the lights on in this cafeteria since day one, since school started, and I'm tired. Because when I walk in here, I think everything should have been on, but it's never on. I have been doing that myself every morning. I have been cleaning when after school, every other day after the Rex leave our apartment, I have been coming in the mornings, trash, garbage. I have been picking it up every morning because ain't no way I'm gonna let my parents come in here, see any type of food or any trash on the floor. And I don't wanna do that anymore. I'm tired. Whoever's supposed to be here at 6 o'clock in the morning or who is here at 5:30, the first thing they should have done is come in and turn all the lights on and see the condition of the cafeteria. And I'm asking the board, you know, we do need help sometime. You know, come and see us and so we can tell you what's going on. The kiosks, we got to sign in. Ours don't work. Then we go into the school. School don't work. Then we have to find a kiosk. By that minute, we 2 minutes or 3 minutes late for work. And I asked for that to be fixed. The door slams. And I don't want none of these children, when, you know, you got babies, this door really slammed hard. You don't want the babies to get hurt when they put their hands and finger in there. A lot of parents have come up to us for parents' handwriting, you know, to the CSA parents' handbook, parents' right handbook. I don't know nothing about it. You know, that should come from the principal or whoever's supposed to have that or the district. I've been coming up here. When I do come, I don't get no question coming from the board what is going on with us. I have one person that comes and see us and asks questions, and that's Miss Collins. Not one time, not 2 times. Every chance she gets. But y'all promised me that y'all would come in and check up on it. The board promised me that y'all would come and see about us. School year is almost over. And I'm going to tell you, the food service is feeling hurt because they feel like they're being left out. All we ask, come in to see what we really do so you know that we are doing the work like we're supposed to. We are getting trained every Thursday. School year is out now. I can't do it this year. Pray to God that you come next year to see us. Now I'm going to ask the question, are you willing to help us? To see that we don't have to get so bogged down and hurt. Then I'm see what y'all don't know, you don't feel it. Being an I'm the shop steward, I get the brunt of it. All I want is one meeting so I can say, let's work, get this done, so the year can go smooth. I want the kiosk to be done. I'm tired of going to different places trying to sign in. That's the main thing, because I don't want nobody to say, we didn't sign in. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I'll come get your information later to see about coming to meet you. Thank you.
Mr. Dr. Rubio, I was looking at this list that we were handed to. I know a lot of these things will be covered under warranty, but they still need to be addressed.
Yes, this is the first time I'm seeing the list. I had heard once about the kiosk and I thought it was repaired, but I have not had the opportunity to have Miss Gracie sit down with me. So Miss Gracie, I hope you'll come by and sit down with me so that we can go over this entire list. I don't know all these things. Yeah.
All right. With that, we have a student representative report.
Testing's been taking place. The AP Bio exam was on Monday, and the AP Calculus will be held on next Thursday. Emery High School track team had a meet on Saturday at Cal Berkeley. There was a bottle closeout on Saturday also in Berkeley, the Bay Area Urban Debate League. ASB is planning a school-wide field day to try to settle in, to try to really settle into the new facility and just to have a day to get together and close out the year on a positive note. And there's also been a lot of data gathering of like student opinions and teacher opinions on just to improve the school climate. That's it.
All right, thank you. And now for the superintendent's report.
Good
I'm
evening,
sorry,
everyone.
I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
It's the high school principal's report.
Oh, so sorry.
Sorry about that, Ms.
Yeah,
Good.
Come on, Ms. Good.
Good evening. First and foremost, I would like to wish all teachers a happy Teacher Appreciation Week, particularly to my Team Spartans, one of whom is standing right there. Thank you so much. And I just really want to commend them on some of the work that we've been doing around school climate. Sorry, this is my daughter. Around school climate and culture, and how they are really willing to go deeply into a lot of things that students are experiencing and they're experiencing in order for us to move forward in an extremely positive direction. I too would like to thank Board Member Collins, who has come to our school to see about us on a pretty regular basis. My students really do appreciate when leadership comes to our school to see how things are functioning, to see how students are experiencing school, to see how our teachers are experiencing school, to see how we are living in this new building that we have. And I would just like to commend her for that. Thank you so much. It means a lot to our kids, it means a lot to our teachers, and it means a lot to me that your presence is constant and supportive. So, that being said, first thing is WASC. We do have our WASC visit November of next year. It will be from November 12th through the 15th. So we would like to invite all of the board members to participate either on the 12th or the 15th. I'll be giving you more information about that as it comes forward. The staff is collaboratively writing our WASC self-study report. Within Chapter 4, there are 5 specific domains that have to be addressed. We've split that up amongst the staff to ensure that everybody has a voice in what we are creating to present to the WASC team towards our accreditation. We're soliciting information from students and parents. Navjot talked a little bit about the student participation piece. We also are on our 3rd or 4th parent meeting now. Our next parent meeting will be next week, next Thursday at 6 p.m., so we can continue that work. We needed to do outreach anyway to solicit student and parent opinion, and it just so happens to dovetail with WASC. WASC isn't the only reason why we're doing it. We look to make this an ongoing practice as we move forward. Myself and one of my teachers, Ms. DeKoven, also went on WASC visiting committee so we could get a better understanding of exactly what the WASC self-study report and visiting committee kind of experience was from the other side, and we found it extremely helpful. It was a really, really effective PD as we move forward and prepare for our own WASC in the fall. We are doing SBAC testing. Our testing window is May 22nd to June 12th. On the high school side, 11th graders take English and math, and our 10th graders are taking part in the CAST pilot science. Sorry. We have established a partnership with Berkeley City College. Through this partnership, we have offered an application workshop, assessment and personalized scheduling with BCC counselors, priority registration for the entire time our students are at BCC. They have gained entry into specialized cohorts that also gives them access to specialized counseling. We've taken part in the Student Success Conference and Orientation, and through that program, 36% of our graduating seniors are already enrolled and already have schedules. So as they cross our stage, we know that they will be moving on to higher education. That is a key part, our goal, to have 100% of our students enrolled in some kind of college or career readiness program as they walk across the stage. Our AP program. So as Navjot said, I won't repeat about the testing. We are looking to implement AP Computer Science next year. We're doing that through a partnership with TEALS, which is a kind of a technology partnership where a volunteer comes from one of our local technology companies. They work with Facebook, they work with Google, various other startups, and they come and they actually co-teach the class. And they also offer a curriculum. So we're looking forward to having that in place. We're also looking to implement AP Chemistry in 2018-19. We are moving to integrated science. My science teachers have been working incredibly hard to put together 3 syllabi. That's integrated science 1, 2, and 3. Next year we'll be starting 1, and we're doing a pilot of 2. For 3 to be done the next year. They have made sure that through all 3 of those courses, they hit every one of the next generation science standards, so that's really exciting. The purpose of, and it's a 3-year program, which is kind of different from what we have now, which is 1 year for life science, 1 year for physical science. This is a 3-year science program, and then that's why we're implementing the AP Chem. So students have an option of AP Bio or AP Chem in their senior year so they can have a 4-year science experience at Emery. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, is I would like to take a moment to really, really appreciate our Teacher of the Year, and that is Mrs. Leslie Payne. Leslie Payne has been... Anybody who knows Ms. Payne knows that she has been an incredible, incredible asset to the Emery community for over 20 years now. She's taught English and PE. She is an absolutely incredible PE teacher to the point where her classes are even highly enrolled for 11th and 12th graders who don't even have to take PE. They're choosing to take PE as an elective because that is what a dynamic instructor she is. She's absolutely a positive force on campus. Last year, the seniors chose her to call their names at graduation, and that is a big deal. She has assisted with Islam Awareness Day, which is coming up. She puts together our academic rallies, and she is implementing a swim unit, which we are hoping to parlay into a swim team in the upcoming years. So again, everything that I've said still cannot do justice to the force that is Ms. Payne on the Emery campus. Thank you all very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you so much. All right, and now for the superintendent's report.
Good evening, everyone. first, I want to say thank you to our teachers who have been doing so much work in preparing for the testing piece. It's a lot of work to prepare for that. It's a lot of work to make sure their rooms are ready. It's a lot of work for the administrators to make sure the other classes are passing class in a somewhat quiet manner, hopefully, where other classes might be testing. So thank you to the teachers. It's a tremendous amount of work and a tough time of year as it is. So I just want to say thanks first. I'd like to thank Mr. Labasse and Ms. Lang and Dr. Kell and Will Fuentes in particular in terms of the support that they're also giving to that same effort. I just want to mention a couple other things. One, 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago, I was at STEM Career Day with some of our high school students, and it was a great event sponsored by Wareham Development and Rich Robbins, and it was great to see high school students from our school with high school students from Berkeley and high school students from Oakland there with the ability to participate and see other companies and get an idea what other jobs are like in STEM-related fields. So I just wanted to let you know about that. We are working hard also on our one-to-one initiative so that we can have every student can have a computer device in the beginning of next year or in the fall. And those pilot units, we believe, will be here very soon. We've been struggling to get them here, but we're working on that. And I would say that I'm looking forward to negotiations tomorrow. And I don't know how many superintendents can usually say that, but I'm happy to say that we're pretty close to wrapping up, and we're just dotting our I's and crossing our T's, and I suspect we'll be wrapping it up for you and for the teachers very quickly here. So that's my report. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And now for the Board President's report. I've got a couple things here that I want to basically just throw out here. Saturday we had a very worthwhile special board meeting that highlighted was our presentation on the race and equity from Mr. Glenn Singleton of the Pacific Educational Group. It was, in my opinion, and hopefully the board does share this as well, that we have an opportunity here for our district to be really on the forefront in addressing things that face us as a society, and to help address the race and equity issues that are prevalent throughout our society. So it was a worthwhile endeavor for Mr. Singleton to be there at the time. In addition to that, I did have a chance to poke my head in and say hi to the PTO yesterday and the LCAP parent group, which I want to commend both those groups, is because they do provide a very important part of our district and shaping our policies for our students. And I just want to give a warm welcome to them as a part of our community and helping us do our job as far as creating a positive environment for our students, and to create a path forward or path that our students can follow through the LCAP. With that in mind, that's all I have. And now we go on to the next item, which will be update on the Yale Initiative.
Yes, good evening. Tonight we have a number of different updates for you, and in terms of the district, I try to do whatever I can as a superintendent to bring out new programs or expand programs or keep them going. So I'm very happy that we have teachers this year participating with the Yale National Initiative, and we have an update from 2 of our teachers who were at Yale just over the weekend and last week, I think.
Hi, my name's Anna. I'm one of the kindergarten teachers here.
My name is Cameron. I'm a 5th grade teacher.
So this past weekend, we were in Connecticut and participated in the Yale National Initiative. So what that is that teachers got to choose to work with a math, science, or English Yale professor to build stronger content knowledge based on one of the 6 seminars, which I'll be showing you more later. So when I say we, I mean these are the 5 teachers that are representing California, and they're from Emery, our school district, Oakland Unified School District, and Berkeley Unified School District. And so we're collaborating together, and we're going to Yale and working together. And we are one among 7 other states that are participating in this intensive professional development, which I'll tell you more about later as well. Okay, so here are the 6 seminars that the teachers can choose. And I decided to choose the illustrated page medieval manuscript to new media led by Jessica Brantley. And the reason why is because this seminar is all about pictures and how pictures work with words, or if they even work together. And as I was thinking about, I'm always thinking about my kids. And so with kindergarten, their first form of writing is all pictures, and then they progress with writing to support it. And so in thinking about that, I want to teach them with the historical context of what happened and throughout their process of writing.
Yeah, and so I have the opportunity to do the chemistry of cooking, so a little bit fun, hands-on for the kids, which is great. But I actually chose it because my students have science once a week, and I was finding that they didn't really understand the scientific process, and they weren't really interested in science, just in general, I think. When you have 1 hour a week to do science, you don't have enough time to really get your hands dirty and get in there. So I'm developing a unit right now that involves phase changes, and all of these directly tie to the new NGSS, which is great, and they're led by excellent professors.
So that was the curriculum. Oh, you want to talk more about this?
Yeah, so during we just went for our first weekend, and we just came back on Sunday, and so we thought we'd give you a couple pictures of kind of what it looks like. So the first top picture up here is the panel discussions, where we get to kind of hear from the different professors about how to write a curriculum unit. And the other pictures are really representative of the work we're doing with other teachers, hands-on in the classroom during our seminar time.
And then it was great because we were able to just connect with teachers of all different grade levels and subjects from all over the country and talk to them what works in their classroom and what doesn't, and then bring it back into our classroom. And then, so this is the calendar for the summer. So we're going to be back in New Haven and Yale from July 10th to July 21st, and that's when we are going into our intensive seminars and intensive writing, and then that's when our first draft is also due. Then in August, we're going to go back to our home state and then continue writing, and our second draft is due August 4th and August 18th. In October, we're going to go back again and to celebrate and to talk about how our work is looking like and sounding like in our classroom after all the intensive writing and research. And so we are both talking to Delaware, and the teachers at Delaware have their local initiatives where they partner up with their local universities to mimic Yale National Initiative. And I've heard a lot of positives in their professional development, them being able to collaborate with teachers from other districts. And also Cameron reminded me that they have 50 teachers in their local initiatives, which provides even just more access for our teachers locally to be part of this program. So as Dr. Rubio and we were talking about, that maybe there's something we want to think about in partnering up with our local universities and bringing this program to the districts in the East Bay. Anything you want to add on?
No, I think that's it.
Okay.
Thank
Yeah,
you
and
very
thank
much.
you.
I just want to take a moment to say thank you, because it's important to us to have these great programs. It's important for our teachers to have these opportunities, and we wouldn't be able to keep these programs going if you weren't willing to put in this heavy time in the summer, because it's pretty intense, and you'll be like you're back in college, but it's still an intense amount of work. Yeah. So,
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Board members, any questions?
Any other questions?
We look forward to future reports.
Yes, thank you for your help. All right. Next comes the update on the CALA on artists in schools at the K-8 school.
Good evening. We have Jamila Dunn with us tonight from Kala, our art partner, and which has been providing art residency type programming and programs in our schools in different grade levels. And it's a real pleasure to see you tonight. And I wanted the board to know more about how that's going and what we're looking forward to doing. Thank you.
Okay, great. Good evening. Can you guys hear me? Turn this up a little. Hi, excuse me. Hi, my name is Jamila Dunn. I'm with Kala Art Institute. And we have been in the Emeryville school since the early 1990s. However, there have been years here and there where we haven't been kind of welcomed at the school. And so I just wanted to thank Dr. Rubio and your team for bringing us back. We've really enjoyed the deep collaborations that we've been able to do both at the K-8 level as well as in the high school. So this year we are working with about 250 students in grades 2, 3, 4, 9, and 12 on a number of different projects, mostly focused around drawing. So our goal really is to help students develop observational drawing skills and learning some very critical techniques that are not normally or regularly taught in school. So we're both looking at kind of contemporary artists and their artwork and talking about bridging that kind of deep historical and contemporary knowledge with student exploration. So at the lower grade levels, students were working on plant observation and drawing and really learning to look closely and represent what they see, learning about ratio and proportion and how to add detail, depth, color to represent things somewhat realistically, but then also bringing in the element of imagination that is so wonderful in younger children. In the upper grades, we're looking at observational figure drawings, but more specifically, and again, close looking at hands, again, the ratio and proportion element, and really just kind of refining a certain sense of confidence in drawing. I've worked in my job for over 10 years, and what I repeatedly hear is kids just want to draw what they see and make it look realistic, and there's a real link between confidence and perceiving yourself as an artist when you feel like your drawing skills are kind of representing the world that you see around you as well as your own imagination. So I just wanted to read a quote from our teaching artist, speaking about specifically the 2nd and 3rd grade work. She says, "At first, students drew the flowers in simple shapes with little detail. After several live drawing lessons, almost all the students were able to draw complex and varied flowers from memory. Many took initiative to draw other items and people in their environment from observation. The students and teacher were excited to see their technical skills grow, and the students took delight in exploring new media and sharing their work publicly." So we will be at the spring open house for Anna Yates coming up in May, and I hope to see you all there. The 4th grade project happening now is focused specifically on local animals, and we've borrowed some taxidermied animals from the Lindsay Wildlife Experience in Walnut Creek. And so those are all rescue animals that unfortunately didn't make it, but are preserved for us to really learn from and draw. So after the students complete their drawing piece, they're going to extend their learning through research of animal habitats, so really looking at local environments. And then another just special Emeryville connection that I wanted to share with you guys. I don't know if any of you remember Deshaun Reynolds, who was a student here. Yeah. And he was, I believe, a student representative to the board, and he was in our first summer of Camp Kala in 2009. So the art teacher at that time, Sarah Stillman, recommended him for a scholarship to Camp Kala, and he came back this spring for a paid internship with us and worked on our auction and made an incredible presentation during our live auction, basically just sharing about his experience and the transformative power of art, not only in his classroom here in Emeryville, but also in our programs and now in his studies of marketing at Cal State East Bay. And he is just a lovely person, and so we want to thank you for sharing him with us, and thank you for having us here in the schools. And if you have any other students who might want to take our summer program, please let me know. We do have scholarships available. So I will leave some of these here for you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, I know I'm personally excited that we have this partnership continuing and growing, and that we have a commitment, again, from Wareham Development, and you have a commitment from us for funding next year. So I think it's great. Board members, do you have any questions?
Yes. As far as the facility that you're providing, or the facility that has been provided for you, how, just your take or your opinion of where you're teaching your art, your instruction?
The physical space?
Yeah, the physical space.
The physical space seems to be, lovely, fresh, new. It's difficult to navigate how to get anywhere. From my personal experience, and the artist has kind of figured that out because she's been here enough. But all of the gates and doorways, and some are locked, some are unlocked. It's difficult to kind of figure that out. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much. May I ask what percentage of our students are exposed to these art programs? If you know that.
Good question. I don't know the total number of students that you have, but it's about 250. So we've got both of the 4th grade classes. We have all of the 2nd and 3rd grade classes, and 9th and 12th grade classes. Those are, we're connecting in with those through the existing art teachers, except for the 4th grade is direct in Teacher Gilbert and Mrs. Wilcox's classes this year.
Maybe a good takeaway from this would be, John, if we could get your help on if we wanted to extend these programs to more children and more grades, what would you need from the board to make that happen?
No, thank you. Yeah, and this is on top of all the kids getting art as well, but absolutely, I appreciate you asking. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
So I just want to take a moment to say welcome back.
Hi, Brenda.
We go way back to the Kathy Crow days and making sure that art is definitely educational. And I'm glad to have you guys back on campus to make our learning visual. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Nice to see you too. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right, the next item is item 10, is an update on bullying prevention.
Board members, we may have to delay that one. I know that Mr. Kaplan's coming from Santa Cruz, so I'm suspecting he hit some traffic.
Okay. With that being said, let's move on to item 11, which would be the consent calendar. Anyone wanting to pull any of those items?
So I'm a little confused. Personnel items, action items.
Did I miss that?
Are those? So I'm just looking at the summary of the agenda.
Are you asking about personnel?
Yeah,
It's 11.4.
11.4. Yeah, personnel actions.
Yeah, I guess
Okay.
I want to pull that because I'm.
Yes, I agree. We have item 11.4 to be pulled. Any others? If that's the case, can I have a motion for 11.1, 11.2, and 11.3 to be read as one?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Member Ball?
Yes.
Member Inch?
Yes.
Member Collins?
Yes.
Member Langner?
Yes.
Member Vargas?
Yes.
President Miriam?
Yes. Motion carries unanimously, 6-0. Item pulled was 11.4. Ms. Farrell?
Good evening, board members, members of the community, teachers, administrators, and hopefully future teachers. Were there any questions that you had about the personnel actions before I started to make introductions?
No specific questions.
Okay. Well, this evening, would like to introduce to the board and to the community individuals we have identified and have been offering positions to. I'd like to begin with Ms. Eddie Scruggs-Smith. She has been offered the position and has accepted elementary school principal. Ms. Scruggs-Smith began working in education as a substitute teacher and has moved up in the profession to teacher and principal. At one of her former schools, Ms. Scruggs-Smith has been credited with implementing an attendance program that resulted in one of Oakland schools having the best attendance record in that particular area. She was also credited with lowering suspension rates by 80% when she implemented proactive behavior supports. Ms. Eddie Scruggs-Smith. Next will be our speech therapist, Laura Shook. Ms. Shook and our students and our staff became familiar with each other over this past year, where she provided speech services to our district. During that time, she became committed to her students and wanted to continue her work with Emery Unified. As a special education teacher, we are welcoming Ms. Bethany Woods. She comes to us from San Lorenzo Unified, where she worked as a resource specialist and case manager. One person I spoke with stated that Ms. Woods is a good communicator with families and that she is adept at incorporating life skills into her lessons. Then we have Ms. Serena Mortensbach. Ms. Mortensbach has been an educator for over 8 years, working in districts in both Southern and Northern California, and she is coming to us from Alameda County. And I had invited Ms. Emma de Guzman to come, but there were so many people on the agenda tonight. I thought that we would introduce her at another meeting, but she is here with us now. She's been identified as our social studies teacher.
Oh, all right.
And may I just ask, would any of you like to come up and just say hello to the board? Eddie, anyone else? Come on up, and if you'd like, if the board doesn't mind.
No pressure, just if you'd like to
That's
say
all
hi. Yeah.
That comes later.
I'm very short. Bring this down. I'd just like to say good evening, first of all, and thank you for this awesome opportunity. I got to share with the board earlier. I am Oakland grown, basically. Grew up in North Oakland and West Oakland, graduated from Westlake and Tech, originally coming from San Francisco as a kid to the Bay Area. And Ms. Collins loves that I'm a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. But otherwise, I appreciate the warm welcome across the board, and I just feel like I'm home. I lived on 38th and Webster when I went to Tech, and then my family moved to West Oakland. We lived on 28th and Magnolia, so I'm back home. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you for allowing me to return to my roots and work continuously with our roses that are growing from concrete. I appreciate that.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard. Any other would like to speak? Anyone else?
All right. Welcome, everybody.
Yes, welcome aboard. All right. Do I have a motion for item 11.4?
I move to accept the, what is the title of this? The personnel actions.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Member Ball?
Yes.
Member Inch?
Yes.
Member Collins?
Yes.
Member Langner?
Yes.
Member Vargas?
Yes.
President Merriam?
Yes. Motion carries unanimously 6-0. Next item is action items. Let's see what we got going here.
Thank you all and welcome.
Officially welcome, yes.
All right. As far as our first action items, we have, no, I say discussion or action items is approval of the 2017-2018 academic calendar. Dr. Rubio, could you elaborate on that?
Yes, I just wanted to say thank you. I don't think Mr. Davis is still in the room, but I want to thank Mr. Davis as the lead for the Emery Teacher Association for working so collaboratively with me to come up with a calendar for next year among different variations that the teachers voted on and confirmed. And so we do have a final formal calendar the teachers have approved. And so happy to have that. And I believe CSEA typically follows the teacher calendar on that one. And we appreciate that as well. And so thank you to CSEA and to ETA. And this is for your approval tonight.
All right. Any questions on the board here? Clarifying questions for that? If not, can I have public comment? I see none, so move on to any comments from the board. And if not, we can go to a motion. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Member Ball?
Yes.
Member Inch?
Yes.
Member Collins?
Yes.
Member Langner?
Yes.
Member Vargas?
Yes.
President Merriam?
Yes, motion carries unanimously 6-0.
President Marion, I noticed that Mr. Kaplan has arrived, so if your board doesn't mind, we can go ahead and take care of that item on the presentation on bullying. Mr. Kaplan?
All right.
Yes, thank you. And I believe your presentation is it on the desktop? Is that? Or is it on the dock? Oh, it's already loaded up on the dock at the bottom, I believe, Mr. Kaplan. As a way of introduction, I'm sorry. As a way of introduction, I just want to tell you a little bit about Mr. Kaplan. He's been a parent, a classroom teacher, and a program director for the past 25 years. He attended Stanford and received his multicultural, multi-subject teaching credential from UC Santa Cruz. He's taught throughout the Bay Area, and he's the founding director of the Common Language Program for Bullying Prevention, and has implemented these systems, reaching over 300,000 students, parents, and teachers. Mr. Kaplan, we appreciate that. Mr. Kaplan also grew up with two mothers and is an ally in LGBTI issues, and is a bilingual presenter as well, and has presented in Spanish to our parents on the topic of bullying multiple times over the last few years. Appreciate you coming up, Mr. Kaplan.
Thank you. And Mr. Kaplan is not familiar with this version of PowerPoint. Who can tell me the magic keys to get it to play?
At the bottom right, there's a little symbol that looks like a white screen, portable screen, all the way over probably. You click
Over
on
two
Two
more.
more to the right.
two more.
No.
Two more?
The little slideshow. No.
To the left. Right.
There we
Back to the right.
No. Three
Back.
to your right. Two more. No.
To the right.
This is a game show.
Two more. Two more.
Two more to the right.
One more.
more.
There you
go.
Ta-da. Thank you. You all get an A+ in the audio.
Oh no, we don't get an A+.
Let's see, this is showing.
And it's not showing. Okay, so we need to set up the screen.
Wrong input.
To,
It's probably, let me give you a hand, Mr. Kaplan. I might think it's an extended screening. Let me just check.
it's an amazing slide that I see right now, and someday you too will be able to see it. Thank you.
It's probably happening they have this screen extended instead of duplicated.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, see, that's the mistake.
Yeah.
All right.
Sound good?
Pitch back there. Pitch back there. Here we go.
Great.
Oh, 1 second. And if worst case scenario, you know.
So at the moment, I'm not bullying him. So I'm clear on our definition.
If we have to,
But he doesn't.
we might need just to flip through some of
Okay.
it. May
Sure.
not. It looks like it's going to give me trouble. I'm not sure.
Okay, are we up there? There's no signal. There we go. Yeah.
Does it blink or anything?
That's almost not even funny.
What are you laughing about?
Perfect. Just teasing me. She was saying she turned her head there and like, oh yeah, he'll come back. I'm not. I didn't eat mine yet.
I was late, so I didn't.
And I left mine over there, and then she gave me hers.
So you choose the arrow keys.
If we could zoom in a little bit, it might work.
Yeah, the problem is I can't see when you're going.
Take a bite now.
I don't know.
Wait, Mr. Rubio, Dr. Rubio.
Yeah.
There's more over there. You should have that one. It's,
Okay.
I donated it to her.
Anybody who can solve this technical difficulty gets an A+ in technology for your next 3 children. Okay, so I'm going to begin. Again, my name is Jeff Kaplan, and I'm the director of the Common Language Program. Also a parent, teacher for many years, and I'm just grateful to be working here with you folks. And I'll be just talking about our bullying prevention program. As you, do people have this in your board packet? You have access? Okay, great. So as you may know, when Dr. Rubio started being the superintendent here and the administrator here, in those years, the district had a reputation for some issues with bullying, and in particular in the elementary schools. And so I was contacted by him, and he said, hey, you know, we got some bullying issues here, but we would really like to know what is going on. One thing I appreciate about you, Dr. Rubio, is you really ask for data. And through my many years of working with many different schools, worked with, as he mentioned, over 300,000 kids, parents, and students over the years. Data is really what drives our work. So I appreciated you bringing me here to look at the data. We started out in our first year with a survey, grades 4th through 8th, and 48% of the students at the school in those grades said that they had experienced bullying in the past 2 months. So what I'm going to present to you are the results of 3 years of work here at your school in the district. And I have to let you know, it's not all solved, but we've made some good progress, and we'll certainly be taking your questions and concerns as we look towards the future. We asked students, have you ever experienced bullying? Have you rarely experienced it, once or twice, or have you experienced it more than that? And the first year that I came, 81% of the students said, well, either it doesn't happen to me, or it doesn't happen to me very frequently. Now, you can see that this includes some of the 48% who said it does happen to them. And for me as a parent, for myself, I want to get to that place where students don't have any experience of bullying. So there is a little bit of duplication in the numbers here, because this includes the kids who said, yeah, it happens once or twice, the rarelies. But 81% said not happening, or it's happening once or twice. And the question was in the past 2 months. So we then really put a lot of energy into teaching students to identify what bullying is, teaching students to report bullying, and teaching students to respond, and to respond assertively. And so you can see each year we've increased our, and actually this year reached our LCAP goal, which is to reach 90% by this year of students who say that they're rarely or never bullied. Now, we certainly want to go deeper into this because we want to make sure that if bullying is taking place, we know where it's happening and what we can do about it. And so the next questions were about, where does bullying take place? One of the places where students said it was happening most often was on the play field and the turf. And it had something to do with the way kids were playing games. We had a lot of football that got a little bit too rough, soccer, and just kids being rough. And so we really had to focus on who was in charge of those areas, and we realized our playground supervisors needed training, because our classroom teachers have had training, but we had somehow not gotten the training to the people who have the greatest student ratio during the time where there's the least amount of supervision. So I'm very proud of this, that we have seen a marked decrease each year. Again, it's not perfect, but it's going down, it's going in the right direction. People in the field of bullying prevention say it can take up to 6 years for a school to really shift its climate and its culture. And so we're seeing great progress over the past 3 years, especially over the past 2 years. Now, I have to say that everything's not perfect. It would be a Pollyanna report, all kind of rosy sunglasses, if everything was perfect. So we also asked students where were some places where they saw bullying increase. And if you take a look at it, the first year we saw about 1/3 of the bullying taking place on the basketball courts, and that went up the next year. Why? We have some different metrics that we're looking at. If you'll recall, at our old site, we had a smaller playground area, and in 2015, we had 3 people out on the yard. The next year, we had basically 1 full-time person out on the yard and help from teachers. So although we had the same sized area, we had less staff. And that's why I was grateful this year that Dr. Rubio pushed for us to hire additional playground staff. It's something we talked about all year. We tried. As you know, bureaucracies can be a challenge. I mean, I really tried hard to get this taken care of last year, and this year we made it happen. So as you can see, the kids responded. Even though we have a much larger play area, we actually gained 60 more students, so we have more students out on the play area. We've improved. Students are having a better experience this year. So I'm looking forward to it continuing with our staff, and I know that our staff continues to get trained, especially out on the playground. This is the place where our hearts and our voices and our eyes need to be connected, and we really need to be supporting kids.
If I may ask?
Yeah, please.
Just so that I am reading
Sure.
these charts correctly. Are we to say that 27% in 2017, 27% of our students from 4th to 8th grade reported seeing bullying or reported being bullied in the basketball courts. What was the question?
Sure, good question. The percentages represent different things. In the first slide, it was percentages of the total students. Now in these, where did you get bullied? This is just percentages of the students who reported getting bullying. So it's a different measure. Does that make sense?
Of the bullying that occurred, 27% occurred in the basketball courts?
Exactly, right. So for the large number of students who did not get bullied or who didn't observe bullying, they're not included in here. This just includes of the students who experienced bullying, where did it take place? And we focused on the places that seem to be the most, where they observed the most.
Could you reiterate what grade levels, or like when you say total students, what students are you talking about?
I'm sorry, could you say your question again?
What grade levels when you say
Sure.
all students?
Yeah, so we're talking about, this is an online survey that students take, and so it's really effective in grades 4th through 8th. This kind of goes to your question, Mr. Vargas. Did you observe bullying? We know that for every situation, almost every situation where bullying takes place, somebody is a bystander, somebody is watching, somebody's seen it. Part of that is because, contrary to the old belief that bullying is something that happens in the back corner, a big kid picking on a little kid, we now know through the research that bullying is something that kids do to get social power, to get dominance. It's a dominance behavior. And so often, almost always, when somebody is bullying another person, they're doing it to get control and get esteemed or get power over the other people. And so it's very important to us, and to me in particular. My family, I come from a low-income family. We moved every year to 2 years. So every time I showed up at a new school, I was the target of bullying. So I've got some credentials here. And we really want to look at the whole group of students in all the classes and say, hey, you guys, bullying happens, and we can stand up for each other. And so we coined the term upstanders. We want to help you shift from being bystanders to be upstanders. And so you'll see this is, a key part of this is students seeing the bullying, reporting it. And so when we're looking at this slide, we're really seeing a decrease in bullying not only reported by students who are experiencing it, but by the students who would be witnessing it if it was taking place. So this just collaborates and corroborates the data that we got from people reporting bullying. And you know, bullying is a tough thing. We are really challenged by students who are afraid to report it. And they're afraid to report it because maybe they're concerned that they're going to get picked on even harder by the student who's doing the bullying, or they're going to get called what? A snitch. So we spend a lot of time in the program talking to students and saying, you know, snitching is, as one of the teachers explains it, snitching is what if two people commit a crime and one of them tells on the other one to try and get a lighter sentence, that's snitching. It's a prison term. We're not in prison. We're here at school. We're trying to make sure everybody feels safe and included here. So when you're calling for help, you're not snitching. So we really try and make a clear difference. And we're curious, do the kids get it? Do the students in all these different grades get it? I would say yes, because 183 students responded this year to say exactly what they do in writing when they see bullying happen. 183, 91% of the students who took the survey wrote down, took the time to write down and say, here's what I do. First of all, I know what to do. Second of all, here's what I do when I see bullying happen to stop the bullying and help the student feel safer. So to me, that's a key indicator that we're shifting that culture of fear of being called a snitch. These are kids who are not afraid of being called a snitch. They just do what's the right thing. So I'm very excited and grateful to be working here at your school district. And you know, if I get to continue, I'll keep focusing on where are places that students feel unsafe, that they can feel more safe, or that we see bullying, whatever else you all request. So any other questions about the bullying program? Yeah.
You said it's online. Do we provide internet access and a computer and time and space for the students to take the survey?
Yes, we do. Yeah, so we take a time during regular scheduled class time, and I go in and am really clear about what is bullying, what's not bullying, and just even though students have learned this and we are kind of going through the whole school, I take time to make sure that they're clear on what is bullying so that we're getting accurate data.
But they're all sat in front of a computer and given the opportunity and time to take that
Yeah,
survey?
yeah. I roll the cart full of Chromebooks around and take them into classrooms, and then they're able to answer that.
A quick follow-up question there.
Yeah.
What's your response rate of all of our fourth through eighth grade? What percentage of them?
Good question.
answer?
I don't have the statistics right here. Let's see, 91% of the students. Well, all the students who were at school, and we do it over a series of days. We can do makeups. 91% of the students answered that one question with a positive answer. So there were 9% who didn't.
A slightly different question. I was just
Yeah.
trying to understand how many or
Sure.
what percentage of the students got a chance to answer the survey.
Good question. I don't have the exact number in front of you. That's something that I saw in the data, and I can get that to you.
How often do you meet with the students, and what's the training like?
Great. So the training is multi-leveled. Dr. Rubio called me in and said, hey, listen, we need to get a handle on this. This is something that has been expressed by parents that there's bullying, and we really want to know what the magnitude of this problem is. So the first thing we did was do the survey of grades 4 through 8. We'd like to be able to do K through 3, but we know that their ability to use the computer would not provide adequate data. So from there, we then give a school-wide staff training, and I'm responsible for that. And it's got two parts. Me talking with teachers, presenting them with the materials that they'll be using to teach kids to identify and respond to bullying. There's also an online component. And everybody goes through that training. After that, we do a parent training. And I'm not sure if any of you had the opportunity to attend the parent training. It's called Bully Proofing Your Kids. It's a title that gets everybody to come in, and we talk about what is bullying, what's not bullying, because sometimes people report things that are not bullying, and we want to be able to appropriately respond to those. And then we talk about just what you can do to help prepare your kids for the possibility that they may be the target of bullying and how they can respond. In particular, we find that most bullying starts with somebody testing to see if this student is a good target. And so it starts with verbal harassment, teasing, or name-calling. And so one of the things that all of our students do is in their classrooms, they read a book together. Part of why the program I lead is called The Common Language is because we want to have a common language. So the name of the book is Simon's Hook, and with your permission, I'll give you each a copy tonight. It's a book about how to respond to teasing so that you don't become the target of bullying. And very succinctly put, we have five different ways that students can respond to verbal teasing, knowing that if somebody is looking for a target, they're going to test kids, and they're going to see who responds to the teasing with upsetness, and then they're going to keep on going. And so what we do is teach all the kids how to respond to teasing and verbal harassment. And, well, when you look at the book, you'll see. And some of them, parents at the workshop said, wow, this is great. My kid likes to make jokes. So he certainly could make a joke out of somebody making fun of his shoes. And someone else said, oh, my daughter often ignores things when I say them to her. So she'd be great at ignoring a comment. And so we just really practice with kids, and we ask parents to play the role of a bully, or somebody who's doing some bullying, with their kid so that they can have practice. If you've done this before, my son was in high school before he had to use it, but it really came in handy. Someone was verbally attacking him, he didn't want to speak up, he felt afraid, and we practiced this, and boom, the next time it happened, the kid said, wow, I'm going to pick on somebody else. Eventually, that student was retrained out of that behavior. And I have to say, bullying to me and the philosophy we bring is that students who are bullying are looking for leadership, they're looking for approval, they're looking for to be liked. And so we say, okay, great, those are good goals to have in your life. You're not a bad person, but the way that you're going for those goals are not appropriate. And so we have a behavior contract, behavior change contract that we use with kids who are doing bullying. In fact, we don't actually call anybody a bully anymore. We just say, this is somebody who's doing bullying behavior, and the person they're doing it to is not the victim anymore. They're the target. And it could very well be that the student who's doing the bullying right now was the target earlier in the day from somebody else bigger or more powerful in their life. So we really use a lot of compassion with kids who are doing bullying, and we just say, these behaviors aren't working. We'll look for a way that you can be a leader, that you can be liked, that you can have power. So after we've gone through staff training, we've done some surveys. Another piece that we often do, and we've done again this year, is just have a school-wide assembly that brings forward this kind of language and lets everyone know that bullying is not acceptable. And this year we had one in the lead up to the election. As you may recall, it was a very tense environment. There was a lot of racial and interracial harassment taking place in the media. And so all of the teachers got up on stage and said, this is who I am. And for my part, I won't speak for other people, I said, I am the son of two mothers. People would call me faggot and make fun of my family. And that's not okay. And I know many of you are upstanders, and we have a big poster that kids who participate in an upstanders process, where they stand up for somebody, they get to sign the poster, and the poster was up right up there on the wall, and everybody got to see it. And I said, so raise your hand if you've been an upstander for someone. And so many students raised their hand. They all know what it is. They all want to be upstanders. So the assemblies are one way that we build that common language. Yeah.
So is there any reason why we're not exploring safe schools versus just a safe school? It would be inclusive of 9th through 12th?
Good question. Why are we not going up to 9 through 12? Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Is that your question? Yeah. I don't know the answer to that question, but I'd be eager to support that.
I can just add, I mean,
Can you? Yeah.
when I arrived in 2014, most of what I was told, I wasn't informed of any bullying happening at the high school. Doesn't mean it wasn't happening, but I heard from a lot of parents, and I had incident reports sitting on my desk that were pretty recent. There was a lot of bullying happening at 98, so that was why we started there.
Our family was one of the families
Yeah.
reporting that. We took the training in 2015. We appreciate it very
Great.
much.
Yeah.
Fortunately, it came 1 year too late for us, but still very helpful for our family and for my daughter as well. It has a lot of applications, even for me as an adult. I can apply those learnings. So greatly appreciate it. If I may had a couple of questions.
Sure,
just
please.
Because
Yeah.
I just love numbers.
Yeah.
Would you mind going to slide number 2 here for a second?
Yeah.
A quick observation there. I understand that's an aggregate of. There we go.
This one?
No, one above, please.
One more down. Yeah.
Well, I guess up in
Up,
physical, north.
The first graph.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure.
I understand that's an aggregate of rarely and never.
Exactly.
I would appreciate if handy. I would appreciate if we could get a hold of the split.
You got
of
it.
the stack.
Okay.
Just so that we can track. You can trend both the never and the rarely.
Sounds
Please,
good.
That would be super helpful.
Okay, yeah. So is everybody clear on what we're saying? That somewhere in here there's a split, because this includes all the students who were never bullied and the students who were once or twice bullied in the 2-month period. I will say, when you see that, I'm very proud of the fact that this was 57% last year, and it jumped up 10% to 67% of students who were never bullied. That's a huge shift, 10%, and you'll see that in the expanded slide that I'll send to you.
And that's precisely the number that I was looking to get.
Yeah.
And then my final question on the next 2 slides, as I understand them, this is a question about where does the bullying take place?
Yes.
So in this instance, we're saying that 34% of the bullying took place on play fields and turf.
Right.
And then the next slide, we see that 27% took place on basketball courts.
Right.
That means that's an aggregate of 61% of the bullying cases. I'd love to get your insight as to where the other 39% of the bullying happens.
Sure. And actually, the way I like to work with figures too. I thought I was majoring in math and computers, but then this took me to the side. So students could answer more than one answer for those questions. Where have you been bullied? And it was only the students who'd been bullied. So these were the highest places that they had been bullied. So they could have marked both. It was not an either or.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
A question pertaining to the actual program, and does it have any overlap or any connection with our wellness center as far as with Ms. Dunn's organization?
Yes, definitely. So this program is the bullying prevention program. If you can imagine the iceberg, I'm not going to show you the slide because you've seen the iceberg slide a million times. Okay. If you can imagine the iceberg, the top part is bullying. It's what we're really focused on because it's very painful, and we all know bullying examples. Someone excluded us when we were kids at some point, and we can still remember that. Someone talked about us, someone gossiped about us. But below that, the majority of actual things that take place are peer conflicts. Kids are now using the term bullying, and sometimes it's accurate, and we have ways, and I'd like to tell you a little bit more about how we handle the bullying, but we have ways of handling it. But the majority of those situations are actual peer conflicts where two kids are mad at each other. Nobody feels intimidated. Nobody has more power. They're just both mad at each other. And then the foundation, and what's kind of the bottom of the iceberg, and what we really need to work with, and again, Dr. Rubio has been very firm about this, is teaching social emotional skills. All of our kids deserve social emotional skills. In the old days, we used to just teach them to kids who were labeled special ed, and Dr. Rubio has been clear, no, I want everyone to teach social emotional skills. We use a research-based, nationally awarded program called Second Step. And you know, there's a lot to teach in the day, but when you have a superintendent who says, and you need to fit this in, people are getting it done. So this is the whole package of what we're working with. And I think, is this answering your question?
Yes,
or?
it does.
So wellness is a part of the program of teaching those social and emotional skills, and the wellness program comes in specific need situations. My primary role at the district, in addition to being kind of an architect of the programs, the three programs, conflict resolution in the middle, social and emotional skills at the bottom, and bullying prevention at the top, has been to actually go in there and train everyone to use these skills. So I've led leadership trainings for the principals and the administrators. How do you manage peer conflicts? How do you manage a bullying conflict? How do you work with parents whose kids are suffering in a bullying situation? Outdoor, working with the campus supervisor and the playground staff, because as we know, again, they're the place, they're there, they're present, and they have so many students to deal with all at once. So wellness plays a key role, and my goal has been to democratize those skills to everyone. Any other questions?
You have a student question.
Yeah. Hi.
I was just also going to ask if this could be implemented into the high school, because what I said in the student report, where we are also doing data collecting, ever since that has started about last week, there's been discussions and conversations that I've also been a part of and heard where bullying is going on, and there's also the question where I hear a lot is what even is bullying, what counts, and I feel like a lot of people are misinformed or don't count things as bullying and don't take it as seriously now. And like as a student, I don't think what I define as bullying will be taken, you know, like as a credible source. So I feel like having someone, you know, a program actually come in and teach students what bullying is, first of all, and then how to prevent it and how to avoid it and how to just get rid of it as a whole would be really beneficial, especially like with what's going on like now at the high school especially. So that would be a good idea.
Thank you.
And if the board agrees, I would love for us to look at, to see what it would take for us to implement programs and beyond those grades. Yeah.
I would definitely support that.
Any other
So-
questions, comments from the board?
There is some public comment.
Yes, I was going to open that up. At this time, public comment for the speaker.
Thanks for coming. I teach at the high school, and your 2015 students are now my students. And I'd say there's a good percentage of my students, at least 10%, perhaps 20, that actively instigate kind of bullying or harassment behavior. They know they're doing it, but if they're with friends who also do it, it may not be called bullying, but it creates a bullying situation in the classroom. I'm just going to say the things I know, and I don't have answers. The other thing I know is that this associated student body is very concerned and involved and wants to help change the situation. Particularly the students who are immigrants from other countries are feeling really startled, surprised, scared, unable to manage the speech to defend themselves from what they think is bullying, and it is. But the bulliers may not think it is because it's their normal way of talking. Okay. Also, next year, Principal Good is looking at instigating. It's not for sure yet, but and I wasn't here when she talked, so she may have said that she might be starting an advisory group for each student to have one person they go to once a week to check in about at least grades and goals and college apps and things like that. Just personally, I would love it if we had a social and emotional learning time in addition to that checking in about grades where kids could learn, be trained, become sensitive. Kids have huge hearts at this school. When the kids are doing difficult things to each other and they're stopped and given time to cool off and then we talk it out, they're wonderful. It's that there's a lot of kids and we need to change a routine that they're in. And it may also just be they're teenagers. They've been through a lot of moves recently. They're unsettled. And we're trying to calm everything down with many, many programs and the wellness center and just teaching classes. But having somebody like you come and teach and lead or advise about curriculum or advisory content would be great. There was one more thing, and I'm going to forget it. Dang it. Nope, I'm going to forget.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Yes, I definitely agree. And we have the wave of the students who are coming up through kindergarten all the way up, moving into the high school with us. So I think it's a good time to be talking about this.
And Mr. Kaplan, maybe you and I can follow up about getting some data from the high school students.
That sounds good.
And I want to say thanks because
You're welcome.
I feel like there's a lot of things I've done over the last 3 years to try to improve our district, and I think getting you up here, knowing you years ago, and is one of the best things I could have done. And you know, one of our core values as a district is the importance of improvement over time, and it's great to see those numbers. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. And I'll be getting you a copy of Simon's Hook, and I'm happy to answer more questions.
I remembered what I wanted to ask you, which is, have you done objective, like videoing of kids that may or may not be bullying, or is it only self-reporting?
So it's a combination of self-reporting and students who observe bullying. So we kind of get information from all angles. Does that answer your question? Oh yeah, definitely. We have many eyes, many adults who have eyes on it. In fact, yeah, we're here to protect you. We're here to make this school a safe and inclusive place for you. And that's kind of a mantra that we use.
All right.
I can say how close this topic is to home. If there's anything, John, that the board can do to make this happen this year, please let us know.
In terms of expanding the program?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank
Kaplan.
you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right. Getting back into items listed under 12.
I thought we called for public comment.
Which?
Didn't we?
Oh, I'm sorry. If you have more public comment.
Test.
Can you time him, please?
What is your name? Mr. Kaplan?
Oh, here we go.
I'd like to say that last academic year, my daughter went to Anna Yates Elementary School where she was in 5th grade, and she was bullied pretty badly. And so we took her out of the district, and she's now at Oakland at Claremont Middle School where she's not being bullied. Mr. Kaplan, you should probably speak with Mr. Rubio about what is bullying. You touched on it a little bit. I've said it before here. What's critical to define bullying, it's not just somebody that's being mean. It's a person that's strong being mean to somebody that's weak. That's a bully. There's a critical power relationship. If it's the other way around, well, that's called speaking truth to power. So in other words, a weak person is being mean to like an authoritarian figure or something. That's speaking truth to power. That is not bullying. As a matter of fact, it can't be bullying by definition. And the reason why you should speak to Mr. Rubio about this is because Mr. Rubio has accused me of bullying him because I've been critical of some of his public policy ideas. I'm just a parent. Mr. Rubio is the superintendent. He's the one with the power. So when I'm critical of his public policy, that's speaking truth to power. That's not bullying. And you should probably talk to the superintendent about that so we get the definitions down here. Then I wanted to piggyback onto something that school board member Vargas said. I have a question here. So on pages 3 and 4, that's social responsive reports of bullying, playgrounds and turf, and basketball courts. You told us that these are questions asked of the kids that were bullied. So since the numbers are going down in both of these categories, that means that since you're only asking the kids that were bullied, that means by definition, if it's going down in these two categories, it has to be going up in some other category. By definition, it must. And so, you know, you said you didn't want to do too rosy of a report. That's what this sort of looks like to me. It looks like every single thing here is rosy and everything is wonderful. The district keeps getting better. And that's sort of like analogous to the teacher retention PowerPoint presentation that the superintendent gave last board meeting, where he gave PowerPoint presentation not unlike this, where every single category was great. And the report that the superintendent gave was teacher retention is doing wonderful, it's great, he's on top of it, it's getting better, everything's great. But in fact, it's the opposite is actually true. The Emery Unified has got the worst teacher retention record of any school district in the entire Bay Area. So, I mean, that's, you know, making a rosy picture, you know, he's trying to spin it. And I'm hoping that that's not what you're doing here. I'm hoping.
Your 3 minutes
perhaps if you
is
could
up.
elucidate on that specific topic I asked, I would appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Any other public comment? All right, with that, we'll move on to the next item.
The next item is item 12.2.
Thank you, Dr.
Revision of
Baker.
Board Policy 3513.3. The purpose of this item is for the Board of Trustees to consider revising Board Policy 3513. This is a revision of a policy to bring another policy up to date for us, which defines smoking to reflect also new ways that nicotine is being used. And we appreciate the board to consider this for your approval tonight so we can update our board policy.
Any clarifying questions from the board? Any public comment? It has to do with the tobacco on campus. It's a layperson's term.
You know, there are new ways to smoke cigarettes. There's the vapor items, I don't know what they're
Electronic
exactly called,
cigarettes.
but and this is we try to, as we can, bring our board policies up to date with the California School Board Association.
So can I ask that you just make those items a little bit more understandable, particularly on a summary agenda?
Sure,
That'd be
absolutely.
great, thank
Yeah.
you.
Member Inch asked if we can make the items more understandable in the summary.
I'd like to point out that that is available on the quick summary abstract. It reads that the revision defines smoking to reflect the new ways nicotine is used. So that may be a helpful way for us to
I think it would
reach
have
out.
been helpful to a member of the public that asked what the item was, if she could have seen it on this agenda that's provided. At the board meeting, this printed agenda
Where's the
is
packet?
actually given to members that come to the public.
And I believe we have packets on the table. We're in 12.2.
12.2.
So
I
member,
don't think you have any problem doing that, right? The summary just be a little bit more?
If it's not, yes, I don't know if the board all agrees or not, but Member Inch, I'd be glad to look at to try to make sure we're being clear as possible.
Just a little bit more than just the number on the paper that's
Sure.
here. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, public comment on that item, 12.2. Seeing none, do we have any other questions or comments from the board on that item?
I was going to recommend that unless we have any questions, that we try to move on both 12.2 and 12.3, as they're very closely related to each other.
Sure, I can introduce 12.3 as well, if the board so would like.
Dr. Rubio, just for the benefit of everyone in the room and on television, could you summarize that board policy 5121.62?
The second one, is that?
Yeah, the second one.
Yeah, so let me just distinguish the first. The first one is about having tobacco-free schools, and then the second one is primarily about, I believe, the defining tobacco and the prohibition against tobacco, more specifically, the prohibition against tobacco use. They seem awfully similar to me, but I think we're following CSBA's template currently.
All right. Dr. Rubio, I do have a question pertaining to both of those policies. I know funding has been out there from the state of California for smoking cessation and prohibition of smoking or buying tobacco. Does the district receive any funds from the state pertaining to that?
There used to be a larger amount of money called two-pay funds. It's gotten pretty small in terms of what the state gives anymore. So if there is, I wouldn't suspect that it's more than a few $100s potentially, if we get any.
All right, okay.
So you mentioned California Board, School Board Association recommendations. Is that what you said we were?
That's what I believe these are. Ms. Dunn actually wasn't able to be here tonight, so she was, I believe she's introducing these to us, but I believe we're using their templates.
And this is following their template, or is this more specific and defined than their template?
Oh, you did? Yeah, we followed the template.
Okay, so
Yeah.
this is just updating it to the California
That's
School Board
correct.
Association's
No changes
recommendations.
beyond that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, since we've had, do we have a motion on those two items, 12.2 and 12.3?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Member Ball?
Yes.
Member Inch?
Yes.
Member Collins?
Yes.
Member Langner?
Yes.
Member Vargas?
Yes.
President Merriam?
Yes, motion carries unanimously, 6-0. Item 12.4, revision to board bylaw 9322. Dr. Rubio, could you elaborate on that?
Yes, the board has had multiple conversations over the last few months regarding increasing our clarity regarding our procedures for board member agenda requests. At the same time, we asked one of our attorneys, Bob Kingsley, to look to other districts to help, and CSBA to help us review our board policy. The board worked on this as well last Saturday in our meeting, and I believe our attorney made the last requested changes by the board in that conversation, and this is coming back to you for your consideration for your approval.
All right.
I have one section that I do not believe reflects a change that we requested.
Okay.
And forgive me, I'm looking at this on an electronic device. Oh, thank you.
You got a
Oh.
paper copy too.
Thank you. Thank
Sure,
you. My
sure.
apologies. The section in particular that I was looking for, and maybe someone else knows where it is the one item per board member
Oh, did we get that wrong?
section. And my understanding from our meeting last Saturday is that we were going to remove that, and with the understanding that board members would be reasonable and not
Yes.
demand every meeting to have multiple items on each agenda. So that's the one.
I recall the conversation, actually. I'm sorry. I will
The
have...
Cruz amendment.
Yeah, the Cruz amendment.
Yes, yes. I'm trying to spot
It's on page 3 below the bulleted item.
Thank you, Member Inch.
below the bulleted item on
It's like
page 3.
The third paragraph on page 3.
I see it. So we were going to strike that, I believe. Let's see.
That was my understanding.
Okay, then let me go ahead and
And
ask that.
How should how should that read?
Well, it could be the whole sentence. Let's take a quick look at that. Both shall be binding on an order sufficient time. So we would strike that whole first sentence. So let's consider that you're now looking at this. We'll need a motion to amend it, I think. Is that what Ms. Seymour?
I'm actually not suggesting we approve this because there were several other things that I had recommended that aren't in here as well.
My belief is that the attorney took everything, she took everything that I see from your conversation. She added bullets. There was some question of whether or not to do hours or days, and we can change that back to hours if you so choose, but I'm not aware of anything else that we missed.
I had suggested, and it seemed like everybody had agreed, that anything that was not put on the agenda should be, at least all the board members should be aware of anything that you guys had turned down. And I didn't hear
Oh, you did say that. Yes, you did.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry that was missed. So let's go ahead and amend it as well then. So there should be a sentence that particularly, I apologize, I didn't realize that was missed.
Generally, I mean, I would say that anything that's been brought before you.
I'm sorry?
If an item has been brought before you and you're also going to schedule it for a later meeting, that the person should be aware of the later meeting, like if
Yes.
another paragraph. I mean,
So
there's just things that I remember that aren't here.
Absolutely, and I'm sorry, you will ask Ms. Bogard, she'll be here in the morning for negotiations, I'll let her know that that was missed. So the language, I believe, was that any item requested by a community member
Or a board member.
Or a board member.
Although I have to say that my vague understanding from that was that we were not going to make it a policy, but rather we were going to try to make it a practice? Unless I
No, you may be correct.
misunderstood?
I remember the conversation,
No?
but I think Member Cruz may be right.
Yeah, and then I'm still just I'm not comfortable with where this is at.
Okay, well, I think it's ready for approval, to be honest with you, but I don't recall from that conversation.
There's also something in here on I think it's a fourth page on I mean, I just don't want to do this all night. The fifth paragraph, that the board members will be made aware of the agenda as soon as possible before the meeting.
That was Member Cruz, I think that was the one you might have been thinking of, where the attorney suggested we don't, let me see where you're looking at.
I don't recall that was not going to be included. I think it should be specific.
Well, let's go ahead and let's work through this as a team if we can. So let me go back for a second. Okay. Any item reported by any item requested by a community member or board member that is going to be acted on or not acted, I think not acted on.
Not yet.
That is not going to be acted on at the next available meeting. Is not going to be acted on at the next...
Acted on or discussed, right?
Or
so
discussed.
It's not going to be part of the agenda.
Right. At the next available meeting.
Just, sorry to cut in, you could just say agendized at the next meeting.
Thank you. Thank you. That is not agendized. Thank you. At the next available meeting, the requester will receive notification, unless you would like me to say it differently.
And they'll be told how much time, when it will be on the agenda, how much time it's going to take.
That's up to the board if the board wants to add that as well.
I also recall that this was something that we had discussed being a practice, but not necessarily written into the bylaws.
Yeah, and I'm fine with that if it doesn't make it into the bylaws. So we just make it a practice to make sure that.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, my memory's not as sharp as all of yours. I know we talked about it, but if that was, I thought there was something that we said would be an internal procedure, so this was it? Okay.
If it's not written down, then I don't understand why this whole thing is so specific anyways. So.
Well, member, we did as a team spend quite a bit of time on this last Saturday. I thought we left off at a pretty good spot. So board members, 2 board members are reminding me right now that this was agreed as a board that this would be an internal practice. So let me ask them. Member Inch, what was your other change or request on page 4?
When special meetings are called, the superintendent.
I'm sorry. Where are you at? Where are you at? I'm sorry.
It's page 4. It's
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
Under agenda dissemination to board members, when special, it's a sentence that stands alone by itself. when special meetings are called, the superintendent or designee shall make every effort to distribute the general supporting materials to the board members as soon as possible before the meeting. But there is something, I believe, if you look just above that sentence, then it says, in no case shall these documents be provided to board members less than 72 hours prior to the regular meeting. Now, let's see. Oh, that's referring to special meetings, I'm sorry. So, let's see, I believe.
What's your recommendation, Barbara?
That we make a specific amount of time.
So a special meeting technically requires 24 hours notice for the board for a meeting. That might be why this is left a little bit flexible, so that if we want to get it out earlier to you or the community, that we have that ability.
Well, then no less than 24.
Well, if you would like me to specifically say no less than 24 hours, sure. Well, how does the board feel about that? So I'm not taking direction from one board member.
Of course.
Are I'm sorry, just so I understand correctly, is there an instance where we could have a special meeting without distributing the agenda 24 hours in advance?
Less than 24 hours, no.
The only case would be an emergency meeting.
Understood. Okay, I agree that that's should be spelled out.
Okay.
Right.
So when special meetings are called, we'll change that to say the superintendent or designee shall ensure that the agenda and supporting materials are distributed to the boards no less, and we're changing the end of that, no less than 24 hours. No less than 24 hours in advance. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
That
Okay.
sounds good.
All right.
Looks good to me.
Any other comments from here? Time for public comment?
If you could go to the
Please step to
microphone.
microphone, please.
Hi, I'm Lillian Troth. It's hard to know where to begin. Looking at this for the first time, I do feel that the board should give the community some time to digest this, as well as clearly some board members. I mean, you're making last-minute changes before you're going to pass something that seems to me, on a quick reading, to be very significant, both to board members and to the community. And I'm wondering what the significant changes you're making are. So in other words, what did the bylaws say prior to this, and how have they been changed? So there's a lot of information that members of the community would like to have, since this is our input that sort of is at stake here. So can we just start with maybe a discussion? I guess a lot needs to be fleshed out, I would say, before the board votes. So I'm asking for the board to postpone and to maybe answer some questions that I have and maybe other members of the audience have. Would that be amenable to the board?
Well, I just would let you know this is the third time this has come to a board meeting. It was posted in the last two board meetings that we've had, so it's not the first time it's come out.
Okay, so I apologize. I'm late to the game.
No, just so you know. It's okay.
But I would still like to know if the board would be willing to, because it seems like you are still sort of making some changes and unclear about some issues in the bylaws, if you would be willing to postpone the vote and also to answer some questions that I have. And I'd like to hear from the board, not necessarily from, with all due respect to Mr. Rubio.
Are there specific questions that you have right now?
Well, yeah, the one I just asked about what specifically has been changed.
Dr. Ruby, you have a copy of the original CSBA, which the red mark lines. There were two items, two copies, or basically two iterations, one being the original and what was struck from, and so you could compare the two in a previous board packet. That would be a comparison between what you see tonight and what was original.
Okay, well, you felt compelled to change it, right? So I'm just wondering if you could summarize.
Would you like me to give some kind of a summary of why and what's changing? Sure.
That would be great.
Basically, our board bylaws sometimes over the years get fairly out of date, as we mentioned earlier on the tobacco one. I think this one was dated back in, I forgot what year it was. Was it 1995? I don't recall what year it was.
It was very old.
It was pretty old. So we went ahead and used the template from CSBA, and we also added language where so we could have some process and system, if a board member requests an agenda item, which happens occasionally, and there was no real system or process in place. So that was the impetus of us looking at this board policy. What do we do when a board member wants to have an agenda item? Do they follow the same process as the community? It's a different situation. What if a board member has 5 requests at the same time? So we're very small staff, we're very short-staffed. It's difficult for us to sometimes respond to even one. The last one I worked on was about 7 or 8 hours that I had to spend on it. So the last board policy we had in its original older form was pretty vague. It required some very specific timing and didn't give us any flexibility as a staff. So we're not restricting the community's rights or ability in any way to bring items for the board to see. That process still exists. It's just giving us a little bit more flexibility in terms of giving us time to do research or consider the timing of the items as they come.
Okay, so in terms of the community input, nothing's really changed,
Nothing
so it's the
there's
same.
nothing restricting the community.
Sorry, if I could try my best to try to relay what I understand is the summary of these policies.
Yeah.
The first one is that I think that for the public to be able to add items to the agenda, my understanding is that we're moving from 7 days to 9 days. So 2 more days. The reason for that is because the team believed that they need a bit more time to prepare, especially some of the questions some of the agenda items that kept coming in appear to just need more time to prepare. So I kind of like that because it gives us a better shot to try to include those items into the next agenda. That's one of the changes. The other changes.
Cruz, I'm sorry, can I interject on that one? And that was just, the CSBA draft version recommended 14 days, and our old policy was 7. So we kind of thought it was a happy medium to go with 9. It gives the district enough time to prepare the item for the agenda while still giving the community flexibility to get their items on the agenda. And
Okay.
I think I'd also like to reiterate the flexibility. So if a community member requests an item be put on the agenda less than 9 days in advance, it's possible that it will still be on the next agenda. It sort of just depends on how much work it takes to prepare that item for the agenda. And I'm sorry, Member Vargas, I cut you off.
No, absolutely. That was actually very, very valuable. Appreciate that feedback. Another takeaway from me in terms of changes is that we've set a process so that whenever a community member or a board member wants to add an agenda item, that we set a process to get feedback, including timing for when the issue could potentially make it to either a future agenda and the progress of that. So I think that's an important improvement versus what we had before. In fact, I'm actually very excited about that. And then also the other change, which I think mainly affects us as board members, is that it clearly states the ways in which we can add items to the agenda much more clearly and more than one item. So I'm excited about that one.
Yeah, and I think it clears up because we're dealing with a relatively inexperienced board that helps us as form and actually act as a cohesive and to make the process as easy for everyone involved, including you at the podium and us behind the dais. So yeah, I think it helps clear because the board policy hadn't been updated in probably a decade, if not longer, and it brings us to the forefront that it gives us new impetus to introduce items that maybe had been on the back burner or felt that maybe what's the process to get the nuts and bolts of getting it out there. So I think overall it's going to help the entire process, which is good for all of us.
Okay.
Go ahead. I had one final thing, which is the Brown Act requires that the agenda before regular meetings be posted at least 72 hours in advance. And as a board, we decided that our goal is for Dr. Rubio and President Merriam to get the agenda out 5 calendar days in advance. So by Friday, whatever time Friday, and recognizing that might not always be possible, but that's the direction that we as a board gave Dr. Rubio and President Merriam, so that we have the weekends to read the agenda and prepare for the meetings, and it gives the community more time to read the agenda and figure out what's coming up at the meetings.
So I guess I just want an assurance from the board that that the community will be, appropriately considered in terms of when we want issues put on the agenda that we want discussed by the entire board. And also, I brought this up a few meetings ago, it's not easy to access the agenda. It's like a puzzle. Even for someone like me who's on the computer all the time, it's not something that the average person can find easily. And so I think you really need to fix that. It should be very, very easily accessible to anybody who wants to find it, and it's not right now.
Okay, I'll go ahead and review that.
Please do. And if maybe at the next meeting, it can actually be on the agenda, what changes have been made to make the agenda more accessible. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you for your comments.
Yes, thank you.
Well, that was a Brown Act violation right there. You have to have equal opportunity for all citizens to access their government. The previous speaker, the clock wasn't even on her, and then you were interacting in a substantive way to questions she was asking. You're allowed to give simple, just simple answers to direct questions, but you're not allowed to engage in substantive debate, is what the Brown Act says to speakers, and you see that was a violation. And also, I noticed that the clock is on me because I'm a critic of the board commonly. So people that are parents that are critical of the board get the clock. Citizens that are not critical or newcomers, or somebody you don't know, well, they can speak, just as long as they want. So that's a Brown Act violation. There's supposed to be equal access, all citizens, to their government. So, I don't understand why can't you get this. A lot of untruths were just said, just that right there. That was propaganda. This, in fact, board member Cruz did actually say that, well, he did actually admit at one point, well, this actually is more restrictive. In fact, that Mr. Cruz is correct. This bylaw amendment makes it more restrictive to parents and to citizens who want to access the board. It definitively doesn't. I can prove it to you later. And for Mr. Rubio to say it doesn't is just patently false. Also, this bylaw amendment is more restrictive than the California School Boards Association boilerplate template in several key areas. So what we're doing is we are clamping down, maybe only a little bit, but we are clamping down on the parents and the citizens' access to the school board. Now, of course, this runs counter to what the school board says about parent engagement and citizen engagement. But make no mistake, that's what they're doing here with this bylaw amendment or bylaw change. But the bigger question is why? Why should the default position always be to restrict parents and citizens' rights to access their government? Why couldn't the default position have more freedom, more transparency, more civic engagement? Why is the default position here at Emory Unified to restrict parents and citizens? It just, that's very telling, I think. And I don't appreciate you telling that last speaker, Mr. Rubio especially, that this is opening up the process, or making it less restrictive. That's patently false. It is actually more restrictive. You're clamping down on parents and citizens' rights and they have to access their government. And so, I just don't appreciate this, and I don't appreciate the fact that I get the clock and popular people don't get the clock.
Mr. Donahue, we're not clocking you right now, just so you know, and I just want to correct you in just politely, one way. I did not say this was less restricted. I don't think anyone's going to quote me as saying that. I don't agree with what you said. We're not going to break ed code or public contract or public code. Parents and citizens have the right to ask for things to be on the agenda, and unless it's outside of the jurisdiction of the school board, which is fairly rare, we're going to allow those comments to come. We're just asking for a little bit of flexibility. Do we have 7 days and it's got to hit, or do we not? But we're always going to be reasonable, and we want input, we want questions, particularly if they're respectful, as I've discussed with you before. So I don't agree with what you just said.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't either. I think this is a better move. I think this holds us a lot more accountable to the community input and to the board input as well. So I'm very much looking forward to applying this.
I'd also like to second that, and I feel like we had a really collaborative process on Saturday to reach this language, and that it strikes a good balance between giving the district time to put items on the agenda and making sure that we are hearing from the community. And I will restate that that is our goal here. We want to hear from the community, and this language sets clear expectations for when items can be brought and when the timelines are, and I believe will result in greater understanding of what's expected and of the district and what's expected of the community.
Sure, why not?
What I find is it's good to come to school board meetings where there are popular people speaking, because then, you know, I get to assert my right for equality. Everyone here should know, at the special meeting that they're talking about on Saturday, Mr. Rubio and Mr. Merriam had an even more restrictive bylaw amendment program. Several board members adjusted it and talked them down. So, you know, if Mr. Rubio and Mr. Merriam had their way, it would have been even more restrictive than it is right now. And that, again, that makes me question why. Why is the default position to clamp down? And I know this is true about the Saturday meeting because I've had it confirmed. I wasn't at the meeting, but I've had it confirmed. So Mr. Rubio and Mr. Merriam, the board president and the superintendent, wanted even more restriction that's in this version you're looking at, that we're looking at tonight. And my question is why? Why would the default position be that? Why couldn't it have been opening up and having more, or having it less restrictive and having it be more accessible to the parents and the citizens? Just very telling.
And I just wanted to thank all the board members. I do value the open, productive dialogue that we had on this item. And again, I'm looking forward to pushing this.
Yeah. All right, thank you. Okay, any further comment from the board?
So I am asking for someone to make a motion with the amended version where we're striking out the sentence that you asked us to strike out for your approval tonight for this policy.
Could you repeat the line that was revised?
Yes, the sentence being struck is on page, I believe the third page, under the 3 bullets, the first sentence that reads, in order to ensure sufficient time to discuss each request, requests for potential future agenda items shall be limited to 1 per board member per regular board meeting unless determined otherwise by the board president and superintendent. We are striking that sentence.
Right.
And we're also updating to the 24-hour notice for the distribution of the agenda, right? Did we?
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize.
That's on page 4.
Oh, I'm sorry. Ms. Emery and I are switching papers. I'm sorry. And yes, there is a sentence under the agenda dissemination to board members section, and we are changing that to make sure it's clear that instead of as soon as possible, that it shall read no less than 24 hours in advance. Thank you for the reminder.
So I
2 changes, 2 amendments.
I'd like to make the motion to go ahead and move with those 2 edits.
Yeah.
So
Amended?
amended, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, with those 2 edits.
I second.
Roll call, please.
Member Ball?
Yes.
Member Inch?
This is for the amendments, not the approval of it.
I'm sorry.
This is for the approval of the amendments, not the approval of the bylaws.
Approval of the bylaws as amended.
No.
Member Collins?
Yes.
Member Langner?
Yes.
Member Vargas?
Yes.
President Merriam?
Yes, motion carries 6-1, or 5-1.
As amended.
As amended, thank you. Okay, item 12.5 is adoption of board policy 3470. Dr. Rubio, could you elaborate on that?
Yes, 1 second, please. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
And Ms. Langner, are you going to announce that you're?
I'm sorry, I would like to recuse myself from this matter as I have a personal connection to our public finance firm, and this relates to the public finance.
And I'll go ahead and text you, Ms. Langner, when we're done with that.
Thank you.
Sure. And we'll reflect that in the minutes that Ms. Langner has recused herself. And I'll just give Ms. Langner a moment. It's all boilerplate. Boilerplate, it's the law change. We gotta. Yes. Okay. May I introduce this, President Emery?
Yes, go ahead, please.
The purpose of this item is for the board to consider approving a board policy on debt or debt issuance. This is simply boilerplate language that our attorneys have reviewed. There is an action request coming to you at the next board meeting that we discussed at the prior board meeting of the potential for the district to pool additional bond money that voters have already approved, so we can continue with making some additional improvements here that the school district will do and pool on for many, many years in the future. However, one of our advisors noticed we didn't have board policy in place, and that is now required in terms of commencing January 1st, 2017, that all school districts have very specific board policy in place as they're dealing with or looking at the issuance of bond money. I think many districts up and down the state have there have been some issues or problems, I think, in other districts where regarding money and debt and bond issuance. So this is boilerplate language reviewed by our attorneys, and we're asking for your approval. I think your first reading of this was last Saturday, and this is coming to you for a second reading for approval.
Yes, yes, we did cover it on last Saturday. Do we have any clarifying questions from the board?
Is there a policy in this about how many board members it takes to pass this? Is it any different than any other?
I don't believe it's any different, not to my knowledge, no.
Any further questions? Public comment? Seeing none, we'll go to final comments and questions from the board. Any?
I read this. I'm ready to move forward. Yeah.
With that being said, may I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All right. Roll call, please.
Member Ball?
Yes.
Member Inch?
Yes.
Member Collins?
Yes.
Member Vargas?
Yes.
President Merriam?
Yes, motion carries unanimously, 5-0.
If you'll allow me just a
4-0.
second, I'll text
Sorry.
Member Langner. Just come back. We don't want to continue without you, Mr. Donahue.
All right.
Member Cruz, did he,
I think he wants to.
yeah.
Frank, we'll just hold for a bit.
Yeah, do you want to do a 2-minute recess, or you want to just
Yeah,
wait?
let's do the 2-minute recess.
Okay.
Reconvening the meeting. On to the next item is the item 12.6, citywide property and business district PBID.
Yes. So this issue is coming before us. I think it came up in our city schools meeting. Just remind everybody and let the public know that the school district had a very long-standing and formal arrangement with the city, going back to city manager John Flores, that the school district did not pay the Emery PBID, or property and business item that supports the Emeryville Go Round, I think it's called. So the city has asked us, they brought it up last summer, and then there's kind of a long silent period, and then we started getting emails about it around March of this year, I believe. And so the city is asking us about receiving that assessment. So in my mind, since we it appears we no longer have that informal arrangement with the city, that we should go ahead and make sure we're being responsible in paying that assessment. We have one thing we're trying to clear up as well with the city. I spent quite a few hours at the county assessor's office yesterday, and I took all of our original deeds for the 1275 61st property, and the county assessor's office, their reaction was that it appears they have an error on their records for that property and that they're willing to fix that. So I have a little more work to do with the attorneys on that. So, because the other thing the city wants to know is that if they own part of that parking lot, are they paying the assessment or are we paying the assessment? It does still appear that we own the property except maybe a 4 by 12 feet swath of the street outside of our main driveway of the parking lot. So I will share those documents with the city from our title company and let them know that the county assessor's office appears willing to have that corrected, and so we can straighten that property issue out, as well as make sure we're paying that assessment or either us or any other entity using the property. And we have one question into one of our attorneys regarding this property. Since we weren't able to move in until August, does that need to be slightly prorated or not? So we're waiting to hear back. So otherwise, my information for you tonight as superintendent is that we'll be taking care of figuring out these two floating items and making sure we pay that property assessment. As you recall, I did ask the city and did suggest that maybe they should consider paying it, since we have that other issue with them that we've put $7 million into this project and they have not put anything in. So I don't think that they're interested in doing that. So we will continue to be responsible. We will continue to be the partner in this, even though it feels a little bit like a one-way street lately.
Yeah. Any comments from or clarifying questions for the superintendent?
There's no action on this. Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say my only comment is I hope that we can get this taken care of quickly and hopefully before the next city schools meeting, so that we are not hearing about this again.
Agreed.
Any other questions? If not, public comment.
First of all, I'd like to remind everybody that the people in this room, virtually everybody here, except for the superintendent and maybe the secretary, live in Emeryville. So, the other entity that was just sort of denigrated is our entity. It's us. The city hall is us. We are the city hall. The school district is us. We are the school district. And so to have one of the integrity of one of the school districts, one of the other entities, that being City Hall, being brought into question by the superintendent is sort of, unseemly. I'm a resident of Emeryville, so, I care about the school district and City Hall. It's not that I'm just a school district booster and those meanies over at City Hall. That's because I am City Hall, and so are you, and you. And then I want to add something else. I think that the superintendent just said another thing that was sort of unseemly, slightly creepy. He just reported that the school district has been aware that they haven't been paying the right amount of the P-bid, but they've just decided to be silent about it in hopes that it would just maybe go away or whatever. Insofar that that's true, it's kind of creepy to me that a school district, which is, it's a governmental agency, is trying to get away with something, or just trying to not pay their fair share, and hoping, maybe in this case, hoping against hope that they won't get caught, maybe, or something, or get away with something. And it's slightly creepy. It seems out of control to me. Seems like you guys should be on top of this, and everything should be above board, on the up and up. And talk like that is just, it's just kind of creepy. And so I think you guys should, get a handle on that. Thank you.
Any other public comment? If not, comments?
I have one other question. Dr. Rubio, you mentioned the other entity, and is it the instance where if we're leasing out property to someone, they pay the PBIB, or are we responsible for the PBIB?
We should probably, that's a very good question. I just would ask if we could talk about that in closed session, if that's okay with you.
Yes, thank you.
Sure.
I also have one other clarifying question. You mentioned that that you'd be hearing from the county?
No, what I said is I have more work to do with our title company and our attorneys regarding some of the deeds that we have in the county records, and then I'll be following up with the county assessor's office.
Are you going to keep us posted?
Sure.
Thank
Any other comments? If not, that was for informational purposes, I take it?
Yes.
All right. Next item is item 12.7, audit of Emeryville Center of Community Life contract performance of Turner Construction.
Yes, this item is similar in nature in one way, in that it is coming out of a previous conversation in part at the last city schools meeting, I believe. And there was discussion and conversation about, or the suggestion that we should consider an audit of the performance of Turner Construction Company. I believe this was suggested about a year ago as well on the board by one board member. So this is here because I think we agreed that we might need to put it here as a discussion item. I will point out to the board one thing I've learned since that conversation. A couple people stood up and said that Turner was under indictment, and that was incorrect information. That Turner Group out of Oakland as a company is a different corporate entity. It is not Turner Construction Company. So I reached out right away to find out what was going on. And so I just want to clarify that I believe there was some incorrect information shared publicly with you and the city council members at the last meeting.
Questions from the board, please?
I would like to ask that Dr. Rubio procure some bids for an audit, just to let us know how much it might cost.
I would be hesitant for me to take on that additional work, and I would ask that the entire board consider Member Inch's request. This question has come up before for us. I suspect it would be anywhere from $500,000 to several $1 million to have a company perform this kind of audit. Our advisors say they've never heard of it done or completed. Swinnerton was here watching Turner like a hawk, and what's the right word for that? In contrast to what some members of the public think, we saw no evidence of Swinnerton being comfortably related to Turner. They are competitors. Every time Turner made a mistake or was not potentially doing the right thing, Swinnerton issued a very stern memo and it alerted us. And so we spent $1 million paying Swinnerton to monitor and keep me informed and keep you informed of Turner Construction Company, and I feel that was done. It doesn't make, honestly, any sense to me as kind of the gatekeeper with you of the budget for us to be looking at that, and nor would I be interested, honestly, in a bid process for something like that. And I'm not even sure how we would define that kind of work unless we're going to have someone come in and open up the walls and determine if things were installed correctly, because that sounds like the kind of request that's my understanding of the nature of the request. Did the construction company perform correctly? And I'm not familiar with what that would look like, nor do I think it would be a good financial move for us.
May I ask how you know it would cost us?
I've asked a consulting company, and I asked Swinnerton, what would this look like? We talked to our auditors about it. They audit our books every year, and they include the expenses. The Citizens Oversight Committee looked at every expense, but I don't think that's the request that we have on the table. So it struck Swinnerton as a very strange and odd request because they don't know how it would be done. They think it would be very costly, and they don't believe it would be necessary because neither I nor Swinnerton saw anything inappropriate by Turner Construction Company.
I might add on that as far as when the word audit comes up, and I think it's been in the news because of UC system as far as their internal audit or their audit that was basically it came to light that there was money being put away without record. But when you use the word audit, there's a connotation is that there's a horrendous malfeasance when it comes to public monies. But I don't know, per this request, I don't know the way it's stated, and I don't know how it was stated or performed. This is that it says contract performance. We paid additional, I believe in our contract with Turner is that there's performance bonds. And if everything was signed off accordingly through various entities, that it will ensure that the project was completed per the contract documents. And that's what it boils down to, is if you're dealing with a contract. And is this audit the actual construction, how the building was built? And that's, I think, what you're alluding to, Dr. Rubio. Or is it a financial audit? From this statement, for this agenda item, I don't know what to make of it. What exactly is being requested? So if there's clarification on that, I would welcome that as far as what direction to take. That's a concern that I have as far as a wide open quote unquote audit. It entails a number of things. So I just want to make sure that we dedicate our resources to investigate if we have to, but just make it succinct and make it direct and make it have a plan to execute it, not as a sensational approach to a topic of conversation. So I just want to make sure that we do our due diligence when we bring an item such as this, be ready for what you're really looking for.
I would like to add, so this did come up in the city schools meeting, and a couple things. To my knowledge, I'm not aware of any specific instances or allegations of wrongdoing by Turner Construction or Swinnerton. I do understand that this would be a very costly and time-consuming operation to conduct an audit. And for me, in the absence of any sort of evidence that there's been wrongdoing, I would hate to spend the time and the money on a witch hunt or a fishing expedition. Additionally, I think we're in we have a beautiful new campus, and I would really like to put the construction of this campus behind us and really focus on what we're doing for the students here, instead of dredging up the construction, meeting after meeting. And obviously there are a few things we have to close out still, but to the extent we can move on and educate our students in this beautiful new building we have, that's my priority.
So isn't the reason why we brought the audit to the table was because of the conversation behind, I guess what you're saying was incorrect information involving Turner? So it's not even the right company.
All right.
Okay, so it takes a whole different turn on the conversation for me.
No, and I will add for the board's benefit that, there are still things that we want completed and we want done and that are under warranty, and we will continue. We're meeting with Turner this Friday because there's a couple of things regarding the gates and a few other items that we don't feel like have been corrected to, or that have been repaired or are up to what they should be. And that's, we're legally entitled to continue to have that conversation with them for quite a while, and we're holding them accountable in those areas where we still want to see things change. Now, if it's something that we have broken or our students have broken, and that's on us. If it's something that we believe was done improperly, and they have come and they've made changes where we've pointed those things out. They've come and they've re-leveled the concrete out here. They've had to readjust one of the security cameras that was misplaced so that it was blocked by another overhang or deck. We continue to point out to Turner this was done incorrectly, or the architectural plans were incorrect, which is more often the case. And we will continue to do our due diligence to correct those things as we go along. But I too would like to move on and focus more on student achievement and student learning. Oh, yes.
I understand where we want to move on to student achievements and teaching students, but I've noticed in most of my classes the students deter away from the learning and start talking about the construction of the building where they feel unsafe. That's been brought up multiple times during one specific period where it's not even a joke, it's not making fun of the building, it's genuine concern. So yeah.
I did just receive a list from your principal. You guys had some student input sessions last week, I think, that I'm aware of. And I don't know if that's the same meeting you're referring to, but I received a list of things concerning maybe safety items regarding is it too easy for someone to come through or walk through? And so I have just become aware of some of those, if that's what you're referring to.
It's like, yeah, it's also security, like lock doors and stuff. And then the door this entrance right here, there's, these are the two glass doors, and there's a middle piece there, and it's really heavy, and last week it continuously fell. I was standing by the art room over there, and every time someone opened the door or closed it, it slammed to the floor, and if anyone is standing there, they will be hurt. And it's not the only time it's happened.
Okay.
So.
Well, I'll go ahead and check on that. I know it happened once with Ms. Collins, and we thought it was an anomaly, but I didn't know it happened more than once, so I'll go ahead and check what's going on.
What I would recommend is, if the rest of the board agrees, is that we make those items visible to the board and everybody, and then we just, work towards solving all of them.
And again, I'd like to reiterate that procuring some bids or getting some numbers for design, construction, billing, finances, that is free. That is, although Rubio seems like he does not want to do that, Superintendent Rubio does not want to do that, I don't think that it makes sense to the public that we don't look into the project. I think it's a matter of public relations. I know everybody wants to move forward, and I do think the public would be more reassured by an independent entity, not Swinnerton, to say that everything was proper and above board and that everything worked out just fine. I'm not sure I'm going to take Superintendent Rubio's face value that he asked Swinnerton, and they said it might be a specific amount of money. Again, I do think it's free for him to spend some time, although I think it's up to all the board members to vote yes or no on whether or not he should find out how much it would cost. And then it can be him that looks into how you define it, and he could bring back to us how other people have defined it. Other school districts have conducted audits. Thank you.
Sure, and I just would share with you, Member Inch, respectfully, that my estimate, just thinking about it out loud, would be 20 to 40 hours of time to design the bid. When we do a bid, we do it with an attorney. It's got to be laid out. It's got to be fair. It's got to be publicized. There are specific timelines that have to be met. It has to be posted in a local newspaper or media outlet. It is not a free endeavor of my time in any way, so I just want to make sure the board is aware of that.
But I feel like that's what we pay you for. We pay you for your time to
Absolutely.
do things that the rest of the
I'm
board
asking
either decides
to
do or
not
to do.
continue to be the main construction manager of the district right now.
You were, though.
Because to be honest with you, Member Inch, I think it's a bit of a conspiracy theory. Swinnerton is an independent company. They're a competitor to Turner. I think they did a great job, and we don't even know of a specific accusation. Like, at least if we had a specific accusation, I'd be happy to follow up and investigate, but we don't have a specific accusation that something was done wrong.
I disagree. I disagree.
Okay, well, I'm not aware of any.
Yeah, I don't think the audit indicates that we've done anything wrong. I feel like it would be an investment in making sure that we did everything right. I don't think it's an allegation. I don't think of it as an admission that we were negligent. I think it's doing our responsibility as representatives and trustees of our community to get an independent audit. Thank you.
I think that would be a city school.
I don't think it would be a city schools. This is, my view is I don't believe that the superintendent should spend time. I would personally not direct the superintendent to spend time on this issue.
Any further questions from the board? If not, public comment.
Presentation, clarifying questions, public comment, substantive debate among you guys, then you vote. So this is out of order now. The comment should have been before the substantive debate that you guys just had. I mean, like, I wish the board president, could you just study that? That's the way it's supposed to go, the order I just said. Presentation, clarifying questions by the five of you, public comment, substantive debate by the five of you, vote. That's the way it's supposed to be, in that order. It is true that, well, first of all, Mr. Rubio is talking about how it's Turner construction, not this other Turner iteration. The takeaway, though, is not that. He's trying to obfuscate. The takeaway is the Turner brothers, I guess they're brothers, are the same people in both those different corporate entities. So it's the people are the criminal element here. And yes, the Turner brothers have been indicted. So, you know, we know that they're crooked. So, and then just last meeting, school board member Collins talked about how a door almost fell on a teacher. And then we get the student here that also said a door is like it's a heavy door, it keeps falling. And these unfortunate comments come right after Ms. Superintendent Rubio tells us everything is great, nothing is out of order. And then the inconvenient truth comes crashing in, literally and figuratively. The building doesn't belong to the five of you, or it doesn't belong to Mr. Rubio. The building belongs to, or this campus belongs to all of us. And I want to make sure that we didn't get taken. I agree with what school board member Inch just said. We should look into it. We should find out. Like, it's free to get RFPs. Spend a little bit of time. Mr. Rubio, instead of just telling us here without investigating it, instead of just poo-pooing the whole idea, he should be open to the idea. That's what we pay him to do, to be open to, you know, reasonable ideas, and this is a reasonable idea. Other school districts, in my blog here, I reported about how, what was it? There was I guess it was, what school district? Santa Clara. The Turner did their work on their town, and it was a $95 million project, same size as ECCL, and they got back $190,000, I believe it is, $190,000 after they conducted an audit. And this is the same group, it's Turner. Other people have audited Turner and come up with greater amounts that they were mischarged or overcharged. It's a legitimate and it's a reasonable request, especially given that Turner is so corrupt.
You're out of time.
So I don't appreciate the poo-pooing going on right now.
Any other public comment?
So I agree with Brian. You know, this is a matter of the board doing its due diligence. I also agree that although the Turner that built this school and the Turner that was written about in the newspapers is not the same corporate entity, it's the same people, it's the same corruption, and I think Superintendent Rubio knows that. So I guess President Miriam made a reference to some sensational approach to this whole issue, and I take exception to that, and I think it was John Bowders who brought it up at City Schools, I'm not sure, but I'm sure he would take exception to it too. All of you and the City Council represent our community, and I would think the opposite of what's actually going on right now is that you would be open and wanting to reassure the public and parents and students that everything is above board with this project, and I would go further and have a complete audit, not just of Turner, but of all the bond money that's been spent. So I know about iPads that were purchased for the school that have completely disappeared. The list goes on and on. Consultants, oceans of consultants that were hired. Who knows what they did? They all quit over time. It was amazing to watch. So a lot of money was spent, and I think the public needs to know where it went and how it was spent. So I am urging the board to be open to the idea of getting an audit and finding out. I mean, for Mr. Rubio to say that between 20 and 40 hours of his time would be spent, I think that is time extremely well spent. 20 hours is half a week. He can do this with the help of an attorney. So I think all the bond money that was spent on this project, to spend 20 to 40 hours of Mr. Rubio's time to put together a bid, or to put together a solicitation for bids would be great. And it doesn't cost anything. So thank you.
Any additional public comment?
Just one more thing. I just want to make sure the board is clear on something I said earlier, because.
I think we have one more.
Oh,
One
I'm
more
sorry.
comment.
Yes.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. No, please.
So at my age and time of life, I'd rather look the other way and just say, let's move on. But when we moved in, and since, there have been some difficulties with the building, and we write about them, and then others arise. The post that goes between the glass doors has a key bolted lock at the top, and it may not have been fastened properly. That's fixable, and it may have been an error by whomever opened the double doors to move something in. I wasn't part of the bid. I wasn't part of the supervision. I wasn't part of the construction. I did spend 25 years in the construction industry, and if this were my house and I had just moved in, I would look deeper. I know there are so many items, but I don't think that they went 100% to fulfill the things that were needed. You know, my tables are still short. They were ordered tall. They said, too expensive to change it. We're not taking them back. It's a small thing, but that's my feeling.
Thank you.
So just to remind everybody, we're now talking about, it seems, 3 different types of audits. We're talking about the one that the teacher just mentioned, Teacher Tree Munoz, which is kind of about small repairs that may have not been, that may be needed or that weren't done correctly or ordered correctly. We're talking about a financial audit, which the COC was responsible for, and they watched every penny of it. And I am aware of the consultants that before my time that were, the more money was spent, and I heard a lot of stories about that. My belief in watching the COC over my 3 years is that they have asked and looked over every single item. They've asked what every item is, and our auditing firm audits the expenses as well every year. So it doesn't seem like it makes sense. It's not money well spent, and if we go forward, it's going to be much more than 20 to 40 hours of my time. And if there is an audit, and we do select a company, then you're going to have me as superintendent continue to be focused on things not about the children, which I think is, which I really think in terms of student learning, which I think I'm not finished. I'm sorry, Member Inch, which I think is really not the way you want the superintendent role to be in general as a board.
May I continue?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Students are in this building. We just heard from a student that said other students were concerned. To say that this building and making sure that we've been extra careful, that we've made sure that everything is taken care of, the design audit, a construction audit, and you're talking about financial. This does involve the students. I really disagree with you when you say that it doesn't. It's about trust and building trust and making the students feel important. Thank you.
Any other items from the board? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Superintendent Rubio talked about the COC, looking at every penny. I just want to clarify that that is absolutely not true, and that one member of that committee, Shirley Anamoto, who has since moved to Sacramento, can explain to you exactly what went on. So anytime she requested documentation about expenditures, she waited weeks and weeks and weeks and then would have to ask again, and then she was told that a different person is handling it. I mean, really, if the board wants to talk to someone about how the COC didn't operate and didn't fulfill its mission, Shirley would be happy to talk to you. So the COC did not figure out how money was spent and if it was spent properly and on what, because it couldn't get that information.
All right. If that's the case, any other?
No, this is a discussion item. If there's not a motion and a second to move forward, then I think we move on. It's up to the board.
I think we should move on.
All right, with that being said,
Well,
moving
I
on to...
kind of want to make a motion to look a little deeper into some of the things that was mentioned this evening,
What would that motion be?
to go forward with the audit.
It needs to be a little bit more specific, if you don't mind. So are we auditing, because I just heard something else mentioned, are we auditing the architect, which, of any place that we should be auditing the architect probably, are we in the design, and that will be at least $500,000, I would estimate. Are we auditing the construction company, which I think will be a lot more money than that? And then if we're auditing the construction company, what is it we're doing? What is it we're auditing? Because it's still not clear to me.
So Superintendent Rubio, I think Brenda was just seconding my motion that you get bids, and then you can clarify those things. And then we can all vote, and the people here on this board, if I made a motion to ask you to get some bids. It sounded like perhaps Brenda can clarify for herself.
I'm sorry, you're
that
correct.
she seconded
Okay.
my motion.
So-
And I would like it if you don't interfere with the board when a person is making a second or,
May I say something?
that's enough.
Okay, so we definitely need a deeper understanding as far as the way this building was put together and why it's falling apart. That would most certainly be a part of the audit, and I'm also interested in the finances, considering that we've gone over budget, and we have a committee to make sure that they were supposed to know how the money was spent. I would like to see some finances as well.
I am unclear as to what we're asking for.
Well, I'm going to go back to Member Collins' comment pertaining to, and I have a concern about everything that has been voiced here, especially the students. I'm just troubled by Turner's lack, because I've basically spent time and prepared documentation of their inadequacies, and I've never received a response for their basically repair or their plans to repair, such as the railings on one of the stairs, some of the other things throughout there. So I've never seen response from Turner or Swinnerton on that. With that being said, those items that were discussed as far as warranty issues, I want to make sure that Turner's made aware of those and get those done ASAP, because it's terrible for them to do this, and they should honor their contract, and that's part of their contract as far as their warranty issue. So that should be done. That should be done as an ASAP item. But as far as the audit is concerned, I'm still in this motion for an audit. It's like I want to make sure we are doing it correctly. What are we going to audit? I don't want to sit here and say debate the paint color or I just want to make sure given direction, because a motion does give direction.
And that's for Dr. Rubio to define and get bids for.
I disagree.
Design. And Collins, yeah, please continue.
I disagree that, I mean, if we're asking Dr. Rubio to undertake an audit, then it is our responsibility to define the parameters of that audit. Again, I'm against an audit, but if this was something that the board did direct him to do, it would be our responsibility to articulate clearly what it is we are asking him to do.
Well, there were issues with the design. There was issues with the construction because it was late, and obviously we continued to pay them as they didn't. We were over budget. The project was late.
And I'm going to just chime in. We have gone over all of these items for the last year, all those three things you just mentioned, Member Inch, and I'm going to add one thing. I am unaware of the fact, and I apologize to Member Collins if I was interfering. I had forgotten there was a motion out there, and Member Inch, I did not believe I was interfering, so Member Collins, if I was interfering, I apologize. Member Inch has just accused me of interfering with your ability to act as a board member. I'm not sure that's accurate, but my apologies if that's what I did.
Okay, thank you. So I'm not sure how we're going to move forward on it. We definitely don't want to bombard you with work where you need to focus on students and making some significant changes with teacher retention with the upcoming school year. But we do need some answers. Is any way, I mean, lawfully the building is falling apart. and they should be held accountable for the way that they put this building together.
But then I'm going to ask you to expand on it, because the only thing, when you say falling apart, we've got one example of a beam between two doors that is falling down. I don't know, when you say falling apart, what else is falling apart?
So isn't there an issue with the crack in the deck? And there's a few things around here, if you look closely, it is not worth the money we paid for it. And my concern is the children, the safety of the children, and looking deeper into making sure that they fix whatever needs to be fixed at no further expense to us. So I'm not that worried about the finances moving forward. We really don't need to spend any more money, where we can be putting that into books and education and the things that the teacher needs. Teacher Tree, her desk is for 2nd and 3rd graders, and she's a high school art teacher. So it's some things that we need to do to accommodate the educational structure of this facility, but at the same time, the facility itself needs some addressing, and the people that built this building need to be held accountable for some of the things that are not properly built. So I'm not sure if it needs to be an audit or what it needs to be, but something needs to be done to make them held accountable for the building falling apart. And it only takes one beam. It only takes one kid to get hit. They're lucky I didn't put a lawsuit in.
To me, this, oh, I apologize, I didn't see you.
No, yeah, I agree with Member Collins, because like, is that not enough? Something that could have been fixed when Member Collins brought it up, it still hasn't. And like, I sit here and listen to how much money we have put into Turner, and nothing should be falling apart. Nothing should be a problem. But yeah.
So it's not just the fact that it's a possibility that the beam wasn't locked. In my case, it came from the cement, and the cement itself was attached to the beam, and all of it was laying on the ground like 2 inches away from me. And that's a real concern for me. And it's the way that it's built. It's not a lock, it's not a mechanism, it's the infrastructure itself. If the door closes and the door falls apart, what the heck is going to happen if we have a 3.0 or a 4.0?
I would just like to say, I'm not discounting the safety of the students or the people that work here, the staff, the teachers, but to me these sound like warranty problems, and if there's more that we can be doing to hold Turner accountable to fix the warranty items, for example, that President Merriam identified, I am in support of doing that. But again, I'm not interested in Dr. Rubio spending 20, 40 plus hours. The RFP process is complicated, it's time consuming, we'll have to pay lawyers, and that's even before we get a single bid.
I'd like to recommend 2 things, because it feels like we're mixing apples and oranges. The first thing that I would want to recommend, if the board agrees, is that one of our board members here is an expert or does this for a living. So if perhaps it may be valuable for us to do a walkthrough of facilities, like yet again, because I remember we've done this before, but it seems like there's either one or a couple of items, so that ideally with you, Don, that there's a walkthrough, and then we again produce a list of all the items that we believe need to be fixed, and then we turn that into an action item. That's one particular topic.
And I would just let you know, the city has done that, city staff, so that's why we're meeting with Turner on Friday. We're going over that list. So we actually did it again.
Oh, that list exists?
That exists.
Great.
We're
And
sitting down with Turner on
Oh.
Friday. Yeah. So we're doing that part of the work, and it's still taking up my time. So we are doing that part of it.
Dr. Rubio, the staff students, and anybody who's entered this building has communicated to you deficiencies, and they've listed, I think Mr. Davis has come to, and I think when they first moved in, he had a list of things, and were they addressed?
I believe they were all addressed, and Mr. Davis hasn't brought anything back to my attention for about 3 months regarding that list. I don't think, yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
And then, John, would you be able to confirm that the items that have been brought up today, are those part of that list that you'll be discussing
The
on
door,
Friday?
I'm not sure, but I
Yeah.
can make sure it's on the list when I meet on Friday. And the other item, you mentioned, was it a different item?
Oh, just the safety of
The door. But it was
entrances, yeah.
It was the door. And, okay. And
My
And the
recommendation on
security.
that,
and that they're locked.
my recommendation on that is, why don't we, this is just throwing out a suggestion, is what about if you were to talk to the local fire authority and say, can you basically not have the door work, just close it off because you know it's in disrepair, not to be used, and that way other exits can be used. He just needs to confirm that
You're saying until it's fixed?
until it's fixed.
We can, but I think that our student members bring up a bigger question regarding general safety and whether doors are locked or not locked, so we can do both. I believe that the doors were designed to push open one way or not based on the regulations that the fire marshal would have us follow, but I can do that as well if there's any that we can close off.
I think, I'm sorry, just to make sure I'm clear, are you talking about the door with the falling
It's the
center?
astragal. That's the proper term. It's an astragal.
Astragal?
Astragal.
Okay, so the door with the falling astragal, can
And-
that be
yes.
temporarily locked or closed so that people are not walking through it, increasing their chances of this astragal falling on them? And that seems like a fire code issue. So I think is that what you're recommending?
Yes, there's a certain number of exits that have to be maintained, and the width of those exits have to be maintained as well. So once you exit a portion of the building, you move into the next portion, and you finally get out to the outside. So there's a sequence of getting outside, and you have to maintain the required width.
The preferred course of action, of course, would be that whatever that word I can't pronounce, is
Astragal.
thank you. That is fixed,
Yeah,
right? Along with the rest of the items, right? So
Yes.
I would recommend, if the rest of the board agrees, that list is published, and that so that we ensure that the items that we talked about are there, and more importantly that we get a sense for when we think those items are going to be fixed.
Well, I'd be happy to update you on that conversation after I meet with Turner on Friday, sure.
Great. And then the second comment that I see is that if perhaps it may be worthwhile to table the audit, and if we'd like to maybe give more time to Brenda or Barbara so that they can define what the audit actually is, then maybe you want to revisit it then.
I'm not sure. I mean, honestly, I think maybe the board should vote on the motion on the table, and because if this is it's up to the board. I think you have to decide what to do. But I'm actually, it's been coming back and coming back. We've had these same conspiracy theories for over a year. I think the board should make a decision. Excuse me. Okay, that's what I'm suggesting, that the board make a decision. Okay. Yes, it is. Okay, Miss, you're going to be out of order in a second.
Could you please keep for public comment? If you're going to speak, you can have a public comment moment.
I apologize for yelling out, but it really is hard to sit there and listen to this. So the board is the board, and they should act independently of Mr. Rubio, who works for me and Brian and the board and all the people who live here. So you work for the school district, and so you need to take your direction from the board, with all due respect. So the board has repeatedly said, Mr. Vargas just said, the two members of the board, Brenda and Barbara, are going to look into specifics, which is what you had requested, about what kind of audit they are looking for. And you immediately start to argue with that. So I think that it's time for the board to do what they feel is right. And my impression is that investigating the parameters of an audit seems to be what the board is leaning toward. And I would appreciate if Superintendent Rubio does not interfere with your process.
Ma'am, my
Thank
job
you.
is to make recommendations to the board. That's part of my job. Okay.
Okay, step above.
Yeah, I'm just, the superintendent's supposed to be providing objective analysis for you guys. That's what we pay him for. He's over there harumphing, burying his head in his hand and shaking his head, and then interfering with what the proper board procedure. He's supposed to just provide objective analysis. Does anybody here think that that's what's going on right now? Or do you think that he's trying to steer you, like, in a sort of clandestine way? I think everybody would agree it's the latter, and I don't think it's appropriate. I think he should just be an impartial player, provide objective analysis, and stop with the histrionics. That's not your building, it's not your board, it's our building and our board. And I just think that you should, behave in a more professional manner.
Okay, final board comments.
I'm kind of leaning towards Cruz to table it until we can narrow down exactly what we would be looking for in an audit and what kind of audit we would find necessary after your meeting with Turner.
All right. Any other? So that we would probably pull or rescind the motion?
It's up to Member Inch and Member Collins.
No. You guys can vote on it. If Member Collins is willing to second my motion to ask Dr. Rubio.
Okay, let's vote.
You second?
I second.
All right. Roll call, please, for the motion to perform an audit.
Member Ball?
It's the motion to procure estimates for an audit, to start that motion and process, to get estimates, to direct Superintendent Rubio
Is that what you
estimates. It's a different thing.
is that what you second, Brenda? What did you second on? Is that why you're
Oh my God, you guys were back and forth, back and forth.
So with the understanding of what
I want to table the whole idea until we get a little clarity on what it is we want to audit and how we want to move forward with trying to get bids on the audit, if it comes to that.
Well, we have a motion and we have a second.
Okay.
Do you rescind your second?
I do.
All right. If that's the case, then no further action will be taken at this time pertaining to this item. With that being said, item 13, calendar review.
Oh wait, sorry. I have
But
a question.
we're gonna come back to it though, right?
Yeah,
The whole
that was my question.
Right.
Does it get brought up again?
We're just tabling it. We're not dismissing
If a
it.
member of the board makes the request, then the board will vote whether it comes back on the agenda.
Am I allowed to request that or no?
Yes, as a member of the public, you can request it.
Okay, I request that to be brought up again.
Okay.
You can go ahead and put your request in writing. You just need to give a note to Ms. Emery. Okay. Calendar review. Our next regular board meeting is May 24th at 5:30 p.m. Our open house is May 24th, with the K-8 school going from 6 to 8 p.m. and the high school open house being on the same day, but at 5:30 p.m.
So our board meeting is on the same.
Unfortunately, yes,
overlapping.
we do ask the principals to not do that, not to schedule that, but they ended up scheduling their open house on a Wednesday. However, I think the board had some thoughts about maybe not having having a very limited closed session, so we could go ahead and attend that one, if I recall correctly.
That would be my preference. I would really
Okay.
like to attend the open house if possible for
Sure.
summer all. So if we could limit it to half an hour meeting or an hour meeting, that would be preferable.
Okay.
And we might need a reminder on our board protocol regarding, board policy regarding multiple or more than 2 board members at a function of this nature. So just a general reminder, we are in a public and we cannot discuss any public or any board items pertaining to it.
With other board members.
With other
correct?
board members.
Or with more than
2.
More than 1 board member.
Yes.
And Member Marion, will you announce what we're going to go ahead and discuss in closed session?
Yes, I'm sorry about that. Yes, closed session, we're going to continue our conference with the
Sorry,
real.
13.1?
I'm sorry.
Did we miss one?
Yeah, future agenda items, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go
Trying to
Sorry.
shut you out, Cruz.
Sorry.
John,
That was
come on.
very accidental. I'm sorry. I
Really?
promise that was
Really?
accidental.
Wink, wink.
All right, 13.1.
Member Cruz, go ahead. Or anyone, any board members. There's, is there anything else that you foresee and wanting to be on the future agenda item that all of you will vote on, I believe, according to our new bylaw, if you wanted to come?
Yeah, I want to bring the audit back and move forward with yes or no if we're going to get bids. But I just feel like we need to figure out what kind of audit and based on the information you shared with us after your meeting with Turner, I think that would give us a little more insight as to where we go from there.
Okay, I'll be glad to share how that meeting goes.
Okay.
I have one. It has to do with.
Sorry, do we also all discuss to see whether we all want to make that an agenda item? Or just because we bring it up, does it automatically become an agenda item?
You were actually should. I mean, I was expecting Member Solis to give us something in writing that she wanted. Member Ball, I'm sorry. Getting you mixed up with Kimberly. But if not, the board has the option as well to vote right now, if you want to take a vote, whether or not the audit comes or not. So you could either I need a request in writing or from somebody who's a member of the community, like our student member, which I assume you were going to do, or the board can make a vote whether or not they want the audit item to come back as an item.
Well, I think we're going to be doing the same conversation, because if audit comes up again, I think we need to meet. I think the problem we've had has been a definition of what this audit's going to look like. And we can have the same conversation that we just had, that I want to make sure that we gather enough information to make a decision, because we're just going to sit here and talk again about it, unless we can shed light on it. I want to be a little bit more defined in that. I do respect your comment on that, but I want to find out what we're going to be looking for. I want to have a plan, because then we can act on that plan. That's all I'm asking for.
Right.
On this item, I don't actually know. You're asking if you can make public comment on this item? Because we just discussed it quite at length.
That's okay, why not?
Oh, okay. I mean, beforehand, we were on this item when the other members were speaking, and we had called for public comment earlier.
Are you talking about, would you like to make a public comment about a future agenda item?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you wanted to comment on this item.
Well, let us, if you can hold for just a moment, let us finish our business, and then we can have public comment. Okay? Thank you. Okay, so we have talk of a future audit.
Yeah, I mean, I think the best bet is if any one of you as a board member or our student member can put something in writing to us. I don't think it's, based on what we just went through, I'm not sure it's worthwhile to try to vote on this right now. And I think it is important for any member of the board who wants to bring this item forward that they either bring it forward and present it themselves, as our new bylaw calls for, or they give me more specific information on what they want. But I don't recommend voting on that right now. Unless it's up to you. It's up to you.
I thought we were voting on whether we wanted it to be a future agenda item.
You could.
Yeah.
I'm suggesting you don't do it. But it's up to you.
I don't think we should vote on it being a future agenda item. If there is anyone that would like to pursue this, then again, I think that person should come prepared to the next meeting or whenever to discuss what the parameters are, or what, more specific thoughts.
And Member Wall, I would recommend, seeing as you have a lot of passion on this particular item, I don't know if this is the right way to operate, but maybe I would recommend that you team up with another board member, so that perhaps we can define what it is that we're looking to accomplish with the audit, and then potentially bring that up as a future agenda item, if that is possible.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, with that.
Any other agenda items?
Oh, you want to go? Are you going to comment on that specific future agenda item? Yes.
First, I just wanted to say that audits are terrible, and any kind of hair pulling and browbeating is absolutely normal. especially for somebody that has a huge job already. So Dr. Rubio, I get it. I wouldn't want to audit this at all. I do think that the student rep or a member of the public could come forward with an agenda item, which at this point would probably be put on the agenda for a future meeting. I also think that some precise, targeted fact-finding or information seeking would be useful. It would be interesting, I think, Board President Miriam, if you telephoned the company that audited Turner's construction in Santa Clara that was $300 million over. I may have just read that wrong. I looked it up on the computer. So it may have been $300 million total and then only $9 million over, but there was something, they were audited, they were found to have overcharged. I would like to just ask how and why. If I personally were going to do an audit, I'm so pissed at the architect. Those sharp things, I'd audit the architect, but I'm not going to go there. I have too many things to do, too many kids to teach, and I don't think we'd get anywhere because all the drawings were approved. So I'm not recommending an audit, but I think a targeted inquiry just to the people that have already been involved with the same company in a similar size project could be useful. And Navjot, I'd be happy to help you if you want to write an agenda item.
All right, thank you. Okay.
Any other items?
Any other future board items? I do have one though, by the
Thank you,
way.
Teacher Tree. That was very insightful.
I'm sorry.
I think Member Vargas should be allowed to speak.
No, I have a list. So please, Don, please go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, it has to do with facility, not assessment, but facility use and master planning. I know that's been, I think it was one of the responsibilities of the superintendent that once we get settled, that we start looking at what our plan is for the future of our district pertaining to our property. I know we've entered contracts with other entities for leasing our spaces, but I'd like to figure out, at least get on a path or a plan to see how we're actually going to utilize them either through expanding curriculum programs, leasing for additional entities. I just want to start coalescing around an idea, and that would probably involve public input regarding what we should do with our properties. But I think it's time to start considering our options.
I understand. I just, it's one of those things that is important. I've spent quite a few hours today with our German school entity. I'm just, I just want to caution the board again that as much as we can, I'm hoping you'll direct me more towards the student learning piece.
I understand. It's just something out there, and I will come with more information on how maybe an approach to it. But I wanted to let you know that it's coming. Coming up.
Thank you.
All right. Cruise time. Item 1. I would like for us, not anymore, took that out. I would like for us to get formal training on the Brown Act, what is allowed and what is not allowed. And by the way, these items are not meant to be prescriptive on how soon or in what shape, way, or form, but rather more introduce a topic and see whether there's other board members that would be interested in this, and then we can discuss when and how.
I support getting more training on the Brown Act.
Okay.
Great. Shall we put that?
Is there any other agreement besides 2? If there's more agreement, I have direction.
Is there anyone else that would like more training on the Brown Act?
Okay.
So that's something I brought up a while ago.
Okay, I'll put it on. Yeah.
And I was asking for Brown Act training and some deeper ed code training.
Okay.
I think my first or second meeting, maybe. I did?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
Okay.
Awesome. Item 2 is LCAP. I would like for us to, as a board, to understand what the role of the board is in that process, to understand the general timelines for the LCAP and what the key decision points are within those timeframes, so that we are so that we know what LCAP is. And so again, I would love to ask other board members to see whether there's interest in that.
I'm also interested in that.
I'm in.
Okay, I got it. All right. Item 3.
Item 3. This is again another item around educating ourselves as a board. I'd love for us to understand what the sources of funding are and the school district gets the money that supports all of our programs, and understand what percentage of it, for example, comes from bond money, if any at all, what percentage of it is federal funding, what percentage is state funding, to understand what percentage within either federal or state funding is fixed versus variable, meaning tied to enrollment numbers or not. And of course, to help us identify whether there's other sources of funds for us, really just so that we can get an understanding as to where the money comes from and how we can use it on, so that as we, as a board, try to shape up for the short term, the future, and where the direction of the district, that we have, you know, some understanding as to what funds we can play around with. So I'd love to ask to see whether there's other interest for other board members in understanding that.
I've also been talking about more training too, so I'm supportive of that one as well.
Okay, I got a nod from Member Collins. I got it. Okay. Item 4.
Awesome. 4 has to do with teacher retention. This item has to do with us, this is more of an item for maybe John, if the rest of the board agrees. It has to do with us sort of kind of a master plan, defining a master plan, and how we are moving forward are going to retain and or attract you know, the best teachers out there. And what's the vision? If you need us to define the vision, then we should talk about that. But we'd love to understand what we need to do to get there, right? What the vision is and what we need to do, particularly around funding, to get us there and to get us there quickly.
Okay.
This is something that I'm interested in as well. However, I'd like to say that I'm interested in it from more of a global perspective. So we as a board have not really delved into what's our vision for this school as a whole, and I think that the quality of life for teachers and teacher retention fits into that. But I would like to see that as a little bit more of a big picture, part of a bigger picture. Discussing what our vision is for the school. And this, I've talked about this a few times, but sort of picking our priorities and basically coming up with a vision. What do we want this school to be like? What do we want the climate to be like? What do we want the sort of overarching goals or themes of this district? And sort of from that, picking the priorities for Dr. Rubio, so that you know, on a day-to-day basis, he knows what our vision is, and he knows what 3 or 5 things that this board really cares about.
I'm a fan of that approach, especially because it takes care of item number 5. So,
what was item number 5?
Curriculum enrichment programs.
Great.
But again, tie back to the mission, right?
Is there a 6th?
The 6th one is a very simple one, is if you could help us maybe shed some light as to what the hiring process was for the principal, like who was in the committee and what the general process was.
We can probably discuss that in closed session if you like.
Great, awesome.
That's our,
I have, there's no number 7.
Okay.
Ms. Inch?
I didn't say anything.
No, any comment, any proposed?
Average daily attendance? Some clarification as to where we stand on our average daily attendance and how we're tracking it, and how that applies to funding.
Do we know what's the standard metric for that? Is it by month, by week, or?
It's a number that was in one of our packets regarding our funding. I think Dr. or you know what I'm talking about when I talk about
yes,
average daily attendance. Thank you.
Okay.
Great. So if we can speak in the same terms as it relates to funding, then I would appreciate getting an understanding on that as well.
It's nothing in specific, but I didn't think about this. But a lot of students have expressed concern about the distance between the board and the students, where they would want to be more involved, but I don't think anyone wants to sit here for 3 hours. So maybe more communication, or maybe just check-ins from the board members, if any are like available, if you have time. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
I would love to discuss that further
That's
in
not a
future
board-
agenda.
that's not a- yeah, that's not an agenda item. It was
No,
just-
I think it should be.
Yeah.
I think that should be. I think that's a great
Yeah.
agenda item.
Yeah.
How do we as board members connect more with the school, and what opportunities are there for us to be on campus, and what other opportunities can we create? I think that's a great idea.
Well, it starts with taking a day off.
Yeah, that's yeah.
I always have to take a day off to get through both campuses, and I just go to every single class and just check in and hang out with the students a little bit.
Yeah, that's great. I know you're very inspirational. I find you very inspirational in that you're able to spend so much time here.
Thank you, but I'll be missing in action at work on my job.
Right,
It'll
within
work
reason.
out.
Within reason.
Yeah, it'll work out.
All right. Without any further, or with
Sorry, action.
I have one announcement if we're on to the next
Okay, let's
agenda
move on to the
item.
Can we move on to the next item if we're all done with the future agenda items, board reports and announcements? Yes, Ms. Langler.
You said you have one more?
Yes, I do. So I have been to 2 Alameda County School Board Association meetings this year, and I recently received an email that the ACSBA is holding a networking and luau event on June 22nd. Let's see, it's for all ACSBA members, and it's for all school board members, superintendents are all invited, and you can bring a +1 as well. It is in, where is it? I will forward this around. It's in Hayward, which is, not, it's a little hard to get to at 6 p.m. That's what I was talking about. That's where the ACSBA meetings are. So it's a little pain. I've gotten out there twice this year. It's a little bit hard to get to, but I will forward this invitation around. It includes a link, and it's been great meeting school board members from other districts at these 2 meetings, and I would encourage anyone that can make it to attend. And it's a great place to talk about ideas with other districts and other superintendents, and it's also a luau. So
how does the Brown Act play into something like that when we're all invited?
You can be there as
Yeah.
long as you're not discussing, at another third-party event, you could be there, like you could be at a conference, but you cannot huddle and discuss any district business.
You're the face of the district.
So talk to other people from other districts, I think, is the safest bet.
Any other
All right.
reports?
Yeah, just a quick comment. Last week, PTO organized a lunch for the teachers. I happened to still be in the distribution list, so I attended. I helped serve drinks to the teachers. They were happy to see the board being represented there. Any chance we can, we all have different agendas, any chance we can, of course, they would value that greatly. Was also able to get to the tail end of yesterday's PTO meeting as well. I missed you, yeah. And then also was introduced to the parent committee, which I thought was
Parent Advisory Council, yes. For the
okay,
LCAP.
item 2, awesome. Very happy to see parents engaged in the process. Very happy to see that parents were energized around how do we move this district forward. That to me was very contagious. And that is one of the reasons why I can't wait for us to literally roll up our sleeves and we start tackling those items, one by one together. So that's my comment for today.
Any other reports or announcements?
I'm sorry, I do have one more question. I noticed a sign outside for a book fair, volunteers needed. Does anyone know what that is?
The Scholastic Book Fair, we have it, I think, twice a year, right? Every year almost?
Oh, that's why the May 24th date is happening in terms of the open house, because it's lined up with the Scholastic Book Fair, and I don't know the details. So I'll ask maybe Ms. Emery, we can get some details from the principals regarding the book fair and forward it to the board.
What if we would change the board meeting?
It's certainly absolutely up to you. You could certainly, we could certainly opt for a Thursday night meeting instead of a Wednesday that
Tuesday
week.
night,
Or Tuesday night.
We
You're- you're
most
up to you.
certainly need to be at the open house. We need to be
We
at
need
the
to be at
open
the open
house.
house.
The board.
to be here
Right.
to be there the entire time, rather
Yeah,
than trying to skirt a meeting and then go.
Right.
I would definitely support that if other people have the ability to move the meeting to Thursday.
So we'll be looking at May 25th, Thursday?
I'm open to that.
Yeah? Got it? Okay. Looks like there's a majority support for that.
Okay.
1 second.
Go for it.
I have two
I'm not
calendars.
sure.
One. Yeah. Yeah, that. I would support moving it to May
Okay.
25th.
Okay, okay.
Is there anyone that has a problem with that?
I'm not sure, I'd have to check.
Okay. Can we
So-
touch
Yeah.
base?
Member Inch, would you let Ms. Tamery know if you don't mind?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll let you know as well.
Oh, and Member Collins will let you know as well.
All right. So tentatively scheduled for the 25th.
Yes.
All right.
All right, with that being said, let's go to
Adjourn
adjourn to closed session.
Oh,
Close
sorry, just, would you would you, wouldn't mind just?
I'm sorry, let me
Go ahead.
announce what we were going to
Unadjourned.
be discussing in the closed session.
Yes, thank you.
Continue our conference regarding real and property negotiated pursuant of Government Code Section 94956.8. District Negotiator, Dr. John Rubio, Property Anna Yates. And then item 15.2 is the same thing with property Ralph Holly School Site. And the superintendent's evaluation is item 15.3, and item 15.4 is public employment pursuant of the closed session to discuss an employment of a principal. Now we can adjourn.